We're here today on our status hearing. Oh, wait a minute. I've got mom in the waiting room. Hang on.
And Judge, I'm looking for Haven Doucette.
Okay. Okay, they are, I showed that they're both logged in now, so. All right, we're here today for our status hearing. We're conducting this through Zoom under a finding of good cause and agreement of the parties. We're live streaming and Ms. Galvan's making our record this morning. All right, we'll take announcements.
Daniel Trout for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. Haven Doucette is my permanency specialist. We're present ready.
T.D. Hammonds for Mother Erica Ross. We're ready, Judge.
Stacy Zabala on behalf of Carlista.
Okay. What do we have new since the court report was filed?
Report was filed. I was able to meet with Miss Ross on August 27th and discuss her family plan with her. And we went over everything and she signed it and she stated that she understood all of her services and she has actively started her training at Ross and she'll start working there when she's finished. And then Carlista is doing well. She was having some discomfort and some tummy troubles and acid reflux, but her placement has been working diligently to take her to the doctor and change her formulas so she's able to not be so uncomfortable after eating anymore.
Okay. All right, anything else?
We had a 1 hour virtual visit and went out since Carlista is so little. It was kind of a 1 hour was really long. So we're working to schedule 2 30-minute visits weekly virtual for Erica and Carlista.
Okay, that sounds like a much better plan.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, Mr. Hammonds.
Judge, nothing to add. Erica, do you have any questions or do you understand you just need to do what they want you to do in that family plan?
Yes, sir, I understand.
Okay.
All right.
I think we'll just move forward with the family plan, Judge.
Okay, sounds good. All right, Ms. Zabala.
Your Honor, Carlista seems to be doing much better after the formula change, has had a period of some good sleep. So everything seems to be going good from placement, and I recommend that continue.
All right, then. So, Ms. Ross, let me just talk to you about your services real quick. It's very important that you work your way through those things. Failure to work those services, could mean we don't send the child home to you. And worst case, it can mean termination of your parental rights. So, nobody wants to go down that road. I know you want her home. And so the key is getting those services worked.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Congratulations on your new job. That's great.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
If you need help with setting up services, reach out to Ms. Doucette, or you could always, speak with your attorney if you're having difficulties. Just stay in contact with everybody.
Yes,
All right. And today I will continue the department as temporary managing conservator and continue the child's current placement. Find that there's a continuing danger to return the child home today, but that mom is initiating services. I'll order the service plan as an order of the court. And our next hearing will be on December 17th of 2024. That'll be the initial permanency hearing. So I'll see everybody back then and see how things are going.
Okay.
Okay. Good luck, Ms. Ross.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Judge.
Thank y'all. We're conducting this through Zoom. We're live streaming, and Ms. Galvan's making our record. All right. We'll go ahead and take announcements.
Daniel Trout for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. Jennifer Campos is my permanency specialist. We're present ready.
Jay Michelson on behalf of, I'm sorry.
T.D. Hammonds for Mother Starley George. I'm ready, Judge.
Jay Michelson on behalf of Raymond Brandt, the father. He's present. We're ready.
Stacy Zabala on behalf of the girls.
All right. Thank you. Okay. What do we have new since the court report was filed, Ms. Campos?
Nothing really new on the girls. Other than I know I put in my court report that Stormy had been having some behaviors and stuff like that. Those have kind of subsided a little bit now that she's in school and stuff, and she's able to be around other kids. But they're still kind of ongoing. They are trying to get her into a behavioralist, but there's not one that will work with her due to her age. And so placement has been just kind of working with her on these kind of outbursts and stuff like that. But other than that, she's doing really well. Her speech is getting better. It had regressed a lot, but she's getting back up there. I think school is helping her as well. She's doing good. Marlene's doing amazing. Happy baby. Nothing really wrong with her other than a milk allergy. But she's growing. She's doing what she's supposed to be doing, and stuff like that. Parents, mom has completed all services. Raymond has only completed 4 or 5 BIP classes. Those take a while. I have explained that to him, and he's just trying to do the best that he can. There's also he's been having a lot of issues with drug classes because he works from 5 a.m. to 3 or 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday sometimes. And so he's already having to take off, for work. I mean, not for work, sorry, for visits and then for BIP classes and stuff like that. So I did tell him to try and find an NAAA meeting to go to. And there's a bunch around Amarillo. I gave him Celebrate Recovery is one. I know that they do those in the evenings. And, just to kind of try and get those in. So I don't know if he started yet or not, but that's really it on them.
Okay.
And Judge, just for clarification, on Mr. Brandt's screen, that's him and mom, correct? Mr. Hammonds didn't announce that his client was here. I just want to make sure that was mom.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Compass. Okay, Mr. Hammonds.
Judge, I think, we're working toward reunification. If we could possibly maybe get some more visits set up, I guess. Maybe some extensive visits.
TD, I can hardly hear you.
Set up some possibly more extensive visitations since, it looks as if we're working toward reunification. She's done everything they've asked her to do.
Okay, Ms. Campos.
I don't mind doing those. I am gonna talk to my supervisor on how we go about setting those up. Just because of Stormy's behaviors, I don't want to increase visits and then those behaviors become more. And so I really would like to speak with my supervisor first and see what we need to do. As far as extending visits, I don't have a problem with extending visits at all because they've worked with me. They're doing everything that they need to do. I'm just more worried about Stormy's behaviors because they happen after parent-child visits in person.
What about adding a therapeutic component to that?
So right now they're the person that watches their visits is kind of like a therapeutic setting. But I can reach out and see because they are visits that happen in Lubbock. So I can reach out and see if there's like an actual therapist that could do like their visits. But a place that we contract through, which is Choices, it's like a counseling office. And so it is kind of like a therapeutic visit, but not like as intense as, a therapeutic visit is.
So what kind of time do they have right now?
They have 2 hours. So we increased the in-person visits to 2 hours, and then they do those twice a month, and then they have virtual twice a month. The virtual we didn't increase because it's hard for a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old to,
Yeah.
stay on screen. So we didn't increase those, but the in-person visits we did increase to 2 hours. So they get 4 hours a month. So
And I assume we're doing every other week because of the distance.
yes, ma'am.
I'm afraid that increasing to 3 hours, that's a long segment of time to be trying to conduct a visit with children of that age, in an office type setting. I wish there was a way to split that up, but I don't know whether parents can, do they have transportation?
They do have transportation. They have made it to all of their visits. Even when they were having car troubles, they still made it to their visit, and stuff like that. So there's really no issue there.
I guess we can, the question is, Mr. Hammonds, can they go to Lubbock on a weekly basis, or, is that just going to be too much?
Yeah. Starly, what's your attitude about that?
We can do it. We made it through a lot of things, so I know we can. We have to.
Yeah. Judge, here's what I would suggest. Just maybe over the next month, we maybe see if there are some therapeutic visits that can be set up. Maybe like the next 2 be therapeutic. If those go well, then the next month, maybe see if we could set something up like unsupervised, take them to the park for an hour or 2, something like that while they're in Lubbock.
Well, I think Ms. Compass wants to talk to her supervisor and understand. What I'm trying to figure out is if, is it better to try to do visitations every week for a couple of hours, or do we leave it every other week and try to do a 3-hour visit?
Right.
And maybe the therapeutic, maybe we're already kind of in a situation where we've got somebody that's, a counselor that's already watching them, but Mr. Hammonds, I'm going to kind of kick that to your clients about what would they prefer to try.
Yeah, Judge, and I trust the communication between the department and the parents, that as we get farther down the line, if they'll just communicate, maybe they can adjust it without us having to have any kind of a hearing, if they keep moving toward, just doing everything that's requested of them.
Ms. Campos, if visits continue to go okay for the next month or so, any concern about taking a look at maybe a little bit of unsupervised time when they go to Lubbock?
Yeah, no, I'm definitely okay with that. At least for an hour or 2. I'm definitely okay with that. They have a good relationship with the foster mom. And so, I don't have any worries there. And I don't have any worries about Starley and Raymond with their kids. I've supervised several visits. So I don't see any problem with it.
Okay.
Judge, I would ask on that, just to let our staff, leave it open to where we can increase, but let our staff and see if we can get them set up and work with the parents and see what the best way to go about that.
I'm good with that.
So,
I'm good with that. Okay. All right, Ms. Michelson.
Just a proposal or a suggestion. I know in other cases where AA has been recommended because the parents' schedule, they've offered virtual AA attendance as a possibility. Because of Raymond's work schedule, I would propose that be made available to him too.
Sorry. So he was going to do virtual drug classes, but the time that the virtual drug class was available, he couldn't get off work. So if there is an AA meeting or NA meeting at nighttime that is virtual, I don't have no problem with him doing that. You know what I mean? So I don't have any problem, just as long as there's something. And I know that his drug screens are decreasing. I sent them for one on Friday. I haven't got the results back yet. So, you know, I know that they are decreasing and stuff. So I don't have any problem or any issue with him doing it virtually. That's not an issue at all. Whatever works best for him. I want him to, you know, I don't want him to lose his job either because of what he needs to do.
Okay. That answers my question. Thank you. Pass the witness.
Okay, and then, Ms. Zavala?
Your Honor, I mean, parents do seem to be working on what they need to. I am concerned about Stormy regressing. She is starting to build back up. But we do need to address some sort of visitation. And so just trying to figure out how to do it the best way to, for Stormy. And I know that she's getting a bunch of services like speech therapy, things like that. I want to make sure that the parents are getting that information on the therapies and what they can do to help when she gets back, because she went from, you know, a vocabulary of 50 to regressing back down to like 4. Now that does seem like it's getting better. But the more information parents have of how they can help her with that, and the more we can have somebody kind of there to see if they can identify what it is that's making Stormy triggered. But I mean, I think we can work on some sort of schedule that works with everybody, because we do need to start looking at increasing those visits.
Okay. What I want to do then today is, of course, I'm going to continue the department as temporary managing conservator, continue the placement, find there'd be continuing danger to return the child home today. I want St. Francis to staff and, you know, and see how we might increase these visits and, you know, but everybody needs to be mindful of how does that impact the children, you know, particularly Stormy. And if it's a negative thing, we may need to pull back a little bit and then we'll try again. You know, I would like to keep it where we're just not set in stone on something, but where we can work around what seems to work best for the child. So, our next hearing will be December 10th of 2024, and that'll be on a 9 o'clock docket. All right. I appreciate it. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Initial
Thank you.
permanency hearing. We are conducting this through Zoom. We're live streaming, and Ms. Galvan's making our record. All right, we'll take announcements.
Daniel Trout for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. Jaleesa Bird is my permanency specialist. We're present ready.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I don't know. I didn't touch anything, but it had no volume. It's new every day for me.
Okay, so Mr. Eldridge is present and his client is also present. Ms. Parks is present. All right, Mr. Essery is not present. Okay, Ms. Zavala.
Stacy Zavala on behalf of Zoe.
Okay, Ms. Bird, we'll get an update from you.
Yes. So Zoe is doing well in her placement. She is meeting her milestones. She's attending her ECI physical therapy. They've reported she's on target and doing well. Has a great temperament, always smiling and having a good time. Parent Mandy Parks, she's doing well in her services. She has completed a couple of her services and continuing to work through some of her other ones. So she's on target with getting her services completed and done. Parent is also drug screening for us. So far, those drug screens have been negative, so she's doing well. We did do a DNA test on the alleged father, Donald Privet, and we did get basically the DNA report excluded Mr. Donald Privet from being as biological father. That was on July 5th, 2024. And then we are currently pending a DNA test for Anthony Essary.
All right, yeah, we've already non-suited Mr. Privet, so, okay. And is he still incarcerated?
Yes.
Mr. Essery is still incarcerated.
Yes, he is.
All right.
And Jalissa, on the drug screens, I know in the report, we were still pending on the August 23rd results, the hair and the UA. Those both came back negative.
I did see the UA was negative, and I could not remember if the hair, so I needed to follow up on the hair, but I believe I know the UA is negative.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Mr. Eldridge.
I don't have any questions. Sounds like everything's going pretty good. So I don't have any questions. Any follow-up?
Okay, Ms. Parks, anything today? Okay, she's shaking her head no, I think.
Mandy, you're muted. There you go.
Sorry about that. No, I don't have anything to say right now.
Okay, well, just keep working away on your services. Sounds like it's going pretty well, so that's good.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Avella.
Zoe's doing great in placement. I've got no concerns about that placement. And it sounds like visits are going well, so I recommend that continue.
Okay.
Your Honor, I just looked up the hair strand drug screen for Ms. Parks. It is positive for methamphetamines.
Do we know, is it coming down from the last one, Tippy?
This one was 1489. When was her last hair? I may be out of date here. I'm not showing any other positive drug screens back through 423.
What's the date of this last one you're talking about?
8/23/24. There may have been one done by CPS though, and we wouldn't be able to see that on the I3 screen.
Filed on May 6th. I don't know whether that was a UA or hair.
Let's see. May 6th was a negative. Let me pull that up. That was a UA.
Real quick, Tippy, you said the hair was what right now?
Positive for methamphetamines.
At what level?
1,489.
Okay. Judge, there was it looks like during the original investigation from March 25th, or it was taken on March 19th, but the meth levels were 5,300. So it's come down about 4,000 from that one that I'm seeing from the beginning of the case.
Okay.
UA.
All right, then I will continue the department as temporary managing conservator and continue Zoe's placement, find a continuing danger to return the child home today, but that mom is in compliance with her service plan. And we will have another review hearing on December 10th of 2024. That'll be on.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
For one, I don't see how that even came back positive.
Well, it takes a lot longer for it to get out of your hair than it does UA. So I agree that from March, I would think it would be showing negative at this point, but it just would depend on when your last use was. But what's critical to us is that it's going down.
And Mandy, that may be affected by your genetic disorder because it's related to the growth of your hair. So you might go back and talk to your doctor about that because that could possibly impact it.
Okay. What about medications or anything? Because I do take Prozac.
No, that wouldn't pop for methamphetamines.
Okay. So something about the genetics then for my hair growth.
Quite possibly. I would talk to your doctor about that.
Okay.
But like I said, what's critical, Ms. Parks, is that the UAs have been negative, and and this level is going down. So that's all okay. We're still headed where we need to be.
Okay.
All right, then I'll see everybody back December 10th.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Your Honor.
We're here today on an initial permanency hearing, conducting this through Zoom. We're live streaming, and Ms. Galvan's making our record. All right, we'll go ahead and take announcements.
Daniel Trout for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. Kayla Curtsey is the supervisor and would be testifying today.
Bailey Sapien on behalf of mom. I do not believe my client is present, but I'm ready.
Your Honor, I'm Tate Eldridge here on behalf of father. I'm present. I'm not sure if he is or not.
I do not have parents present today.
Stacy Zavala on behalf of Joshua.
Okay. Then Ms. Kirksey, we'll go ahead and let you give us an update.
Good morning. Josh is doing great in placement. He just turned 1 year old, I believe on the 1st of September. No health concerns, no medications. He's just doing great in his foster home right now. As far as his permanency, we are looking to place with an ICPC in Minnesota with 2 of his siblings in the home that adopted those 2 siblings. We ran into a little bit of an issue a couple months ago. We submitted our ICPC. It was sent back to us. They're requesting for the birth certificate and social to be sent with this ICPC request. We've never had an ICPC request where we've had to attach the copies of those. So it was something that had to get sent up to our director and all kinds of policy requesting and things like that. I don't know if it's necessarily to do with Minnesota as the state requesting them, because they don't really require those for some of the other states that we place with. With that being said, we went ahead and got his birth certificate in. We are needing to get his social security card. It's going to kind of be a matter of what happens sooner. Either we get the rule overturned that we have to have that, which that's kind of what they're trying to do, or we get the social security in first, whatever is the fastest way to go about. As far as getting that social security card, we have ran into a little bit of a difficult position. Requesting it is going to require certified either school records or certified medical records. Obviously, he doesn't have school records with his age, but his medical records, we've called up the hospital trying to get those and call his doctor. They said that they don't have certified records to give us. I asked them if they could sign in blue ink and have the doctor sign. They said that they couldn't do it. So we're going to keep trying with that, but if not, we're going to have her take him to a different doctor and see if that office will provide us with certified medical records. So that's kind of the update on the ICPC and his permanency that we're looking at right now. As far as Jessica Davidson and Henry Royce, we really don't have any updates past what's been put in the court report. Jessica is MIA. We have not been able to locate her. I believe the last time that she was located was July 11th, and she was homeless and living behind a store downtown Amarillo. We haven't been able to find her ever since. She hasn't made any progress on her family plan of service. Henry Royce, we've not had any communication with him. No progress on the family plan of service to report.
All right, Ms. Sapien, anything to report?
No, Your Honor, nothing to report. I also have not had any contact or been able to find my client.
Okay, Mr. Eldridge.
Same with me, Judge. I don't have anything to report either.
Okay, Ms. Zavala.
Your Honor, this is a case that I had sort of referenced before. This is another one of those birth certificate, social security card cases that we're just having a slowdown in. I really hate that we have a very, very interested placement. And I'm not saying that this is St. Francis's fault, but I hate that we're in this situation. I would like to see whatever we can do to try to get one of, whether change the requirement for the social security card or somehow obtain a social security card so that we can move forward with that ICPC. As we're waiting, I really think that this potential placement should have regular visits. I know he's little, I know they're far away, I know it would have to be virtual. But I mean, that is where I believe we all think this is headed. And so the more contact that everybody could have with each other, the better. I have no idea if placement could travel down here, but if they could, I absolutely think there should be visits. I hate that we're in this situation. But I mean, I've got no concerns about his foster family at all. I don't want to to make it sound like he's not in a great placement. He is, but the longer he's there and the longer it takes to switch over to a family placement, the harder it is on everybody. So right now, of course, we need to continue that placement, but I would recommend as much contact as possible with future family placement and siblings, and to just kind of put this on the urgent list to get that ICPC started, because at this point we haven't even started it.
Okay. So, Ms. Smith, if everybody will look at her chat, maybe that would be of some assistance. So I'm going to continue the department as temporary managing conservator. I'm going to continue the child's current placement, find there's a continuing danger to return the child home to either parent. And I am going to set our final for December 10th of 2024 on a 9 o'clock docket. That just doesn't affect the progress of the ICPC at all. So we've made no progress. Parents are essentially MIA. So I would at least like to get the underlying case wrapped up if we can. And I recognize we may not have an approved ICPC yet, but I don't see any disadvantage in going forward. Does anybody?
Judge, the only thing we're getting, Mom, we've not served Mom because we haven't been able to find her since. So we are working on the affidavit to get her published on. We just haven't gotten that to you yet. Since the worker's out on FMLA right now, we're having some issues, but we're going to get that to you. But I don't have her. I don't believe I have her that she ever appeared.
She hasn't.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I don't think she's actually appeared at any hearing.
She hasn't, and she hasn't, we haven't been able to get her served.
But Ms. Sapien, did you file any kind of answer on her behalf?
I didn't, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, I want to go ahead and set the final.
Okay.
I mean, if we have to push it, we will, but we're going nowhere fast. So.
And I apologize. Can you repeat that date for me?
Sure. December 10th. And that'll be on a 9 o'clock docket.
Thank you.
So yeah, I mean, I'm like Ms. Zavala. I'd love to move forward with that ICPC as soon as we can. So, but that in the early final, I don't think affects it. So, all right, then I'll see everybody back in December.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Judge.
We're live streaming, and Ms. Gavin's making our record. Okay, we will take announcements.
Daniel Driver, Texas Department of Family and Protective Services, Nikki Lane's my currency specialist, we're present ready.
Natalie Archer for the mother, Sierra Villarreal, and you're both present ready.
Stacey Zavala on behalf of Sophia. Yes, so Sophia was hospitalized August 5th to August 7th. It appeared to the current foster placement that this was seizures. Upon further investigating, it is actually called Sandifer syndrome. It's caused from GERD, a symptom of being born positive to cocaine, having trouble with her GI system. She has another GI appointment for September 13th. Mom and foster parents have both been working together, doctor's appointments, learning about the Sandifer syndrome that's related to this GERD for Sophia, but otherwise she is growing, she is happy, she's healthy, she's attempting to sit up on her own. The mom on this case has basically completed all of her services. She is working very closely with me. She has tested negative on her hair strand and oral swab, and has tested negative on her UAs that she has been requested to go. Mom has an open investigation right now regarding the removal of Sophia and her other two children remaining in her care. She's working very closely with the investigation. She was a little intimidated by DFPS due to the nature of having an open CPS case, but Mom has been willing and able to work with that. We would like to work on a reunification plan with Mom. However, we are just waiting on investigations to give us a rule out or whatever they determine for that investigation.
Ms. Lane, are you asking for drug screens today also? Come on.
Yes.
You want a hair strand and a UA or just a UA? What do you look for?
And just a UA.
Just a UA?
All right, Ms. Archer. Judge, my client's doing fantastic. As you heard, she's done services. She actually completed a financial plan for me just so we could make sure that there are no concerns about her working and going to school and so forth if the baby is put into her care. I don't really have anything to add other than I'm hoping to see this case move along at a little bit faster rate due to her progress.
And Ms. Vol?
Your Honor, I'm glad that mom has been working so hard. It does seem like it's time to start ramping up towards a reunification. I do have some specific questions about living situation, transportation, daycare, those kinds of issues, but it sounds like that can be addressed. I'm glad that mom is going to the GI appointment that's scheduled coming up pretty soon. I think before she has extended unsupervised, she really needs to attend some of the therapy sessions, the feeding sessions. It sounds to me like Sophia is going to be on medication for at least 2 to 3 years, if not longer, with GI consults every 3 months or so. She may outgrow it, but she may not. She has had this recent hospitalization, and this, at least for the next 2 to 3 years, is going to take some on-hands management of her condition. Not something that mom shouldn't be able to do. She should be able to do that. But before because of this condition, there's always a possibility of aspiration. And so I just want to make sure that mom has all of that information from the feeding therapy. And there's also some mobility therapy that I think would be helpful. But that shouldn't slow down a reunification schedule very much. But I do think that's very important before we move to unsupervised, that mom has a complete understanding of what she needs to do to handle Sophia's condition. And I think that should be possible.
All right, so let's see if we can't start rolling her into some of those sessions. I agree with Ms. Ball. I think that's very important.
And I do want to note, I think maybe those sessions could take place at maybe either the St. Francis office or the Visitation house. Someplace, I think right now they take place at Placements Home, and I think it would be better for that to be in a different location for mom to attend, but there should be some places available to do that.
Okay. All right, Ms. Lane, well, let's take a look at see how we can work with mom and get that done.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, then. Sounds like we're headed in the right direction. So I will order Ms. Villarreal to go drug screen for us today. That was just a UA, correct, Ms. Lane?
It wasn't.
Yes.
Okay, and then I will continue the department as temporary managing conservator, continue the child's current placement. I would like for St. Francis and department representatives to start looking at a reunification plan with mom. And our next review hearing will be on December 12th of 2024. That'll be on a 9 o'clock docket. My sincere hope is that we've got child placed with mom by then, under reunification plan, and then we can take a look and see how we're doing at that point. So I think that needs to be the target for sure. So as long as everything stays good, Ms. Villarreal, drug tests are negative and all that, we're at that stage where we want to move forward.
And Judge, I think I forgot to ask, once we locate Dad, can we go get hair and UAs ordered on him also?
Sure. I don't have any problem with that. Okay, then I will see everybody back in December.
Thank you, Judge.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. May I be excused?
Yes, ma'am. We are here on a review hearing. We are conducting this through Zoom. We're live streaming, and Ms. Galvan is making our record. Okay, we'll go ahead and take announcements.
Daniel Trow for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. Christy Ashley is my permanency specialist. We're present ready.
Morning, Lucero. On behalf of the father, Miguel Contreras, Your Honor, I'm present and ready. Mr. Contreras is at work today and will not be present.
Jay Michelson, on behalf of the mother, Kimberly Oldham, I do not see that she's present, but we're ready.
Okay.
Stacy Zavala on behalf of the children.
All right, then, Ms. Ashley, if you want to give us an update.
Your Honor, before Ms. Ashley starts, I wanted to give an update. I kind of emailed parties I think on Friday, kind of where we stand on this. This is a case, of course, we did a mediated settlement agreement on for children to stay with aunt and uncle. We're working on getting a PCA for the aunt and uncle, and kind of had some hiccups in it, but it's been presented. We're waiting on getting an answer back from the state on whether they're going to qualify for the PCA or not. don't want to put in we can't put in a final order till giving the Oldham's PMC until we get an approval on that, because if we do that, it will bar them from being able to get it if a final order is put in before it's approved. So I'm waiting on getting an answer. I was hoping I have an answer back by now. But there's just some language and some of the way the MSA was done. There's just some tricky situations that everybody's kind of learning as we go through these PCA situations. But once we get an answer back, either way, whether they're denied or they're approved for it, once we get that answer back, we'll be working on an order to submit to the court one way or another, getting either PMC to the Oldhams or PMC with PCA to the Oldhams, depending on what that decision comes back as. During the mediation, we did agree that regardless of which way that decision went, the Oldhams would still get PMC. We're just waiting for that final answer from the state to get that done. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. What I had a real question about was reviewing the report. It looked like what I read that was a CEDRO was on a step-up visitation plan that includes unsupervised visits overnight with mom and Miguel, and that's going to work into the standard possession order. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. There's some step up. There's some changes, and it's in the MSA as far as what the step up will be and the way it works. One of the changes once it's stepped up is the instead of doing a full month during the summers, there'll be a week or 2 weeks. I can't remember exactly what the wording was on that, but it changed the summer visitations up a little bit the way we did it, and that is kind of what initially caused some of the issues with the PCA. Is, you know, evidently one of the rules is if they can effectively be reunited, then they will probably get denied, depending on what the court order says and what the MSA says. So we sent a copy of the MSA to the state with the packet so that they could review everything, so that they wouldn't be surprised once the final order came in as to what that MSA said.
Okay, but everybody, the agreement still stands as to PMC to aunt and uncle, and then the children's situations with visitation is a little different and
Yes.
parent, but okay.
Yes, ma'am. And then, like I said, once we get a final answer back from the state on that PCA determination, we will move forward with the final order. We just got to know exactly what they're going to do on that.
Okay, so otherwise, everything's still good and kids are doing well and everybody's.
Yes, ma'am. I believe so. I'll let Ms. Ashley answer that question, but yes, I believe everything's still going well.
Yeah.
Yes, Judge, that was the only update I had, was that we're awaiting to see if they're going to qualify for PCA. The kids are still doing great. Emily and Cedro are on that step-up visitation plan. They've made it to weekends, Friday night at 6 till Sunday night at 6. There's really no other updates.
Okay. All right, then, Mr. Michelson, anything to add today?
Oh, Your Honor.
Okay, and Ms. Lucero?
Your Honor, I just want to be clear so I can let Mr. Contreras know. So, and it's kind of a question to Daniel. So if whether the answer comes back approved or denied, will we just send out or y'all send out for our signatures like a final order, or will we come back for that? Is that
no, we would try to go ahead and get a final order since we've already got the MSA done.
Okay.
We'll get it put in. Like I said, the Oldhams are good taking PMC without the PCA.
Right.
And that's why we kind of got the MSA written like that.
Okay.
But I just need a final answer from the state on that. And once I get that, either way, whether approved or denied, we'll get a final order done.
Okay. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, Ms. Zavala?
Your Honor, the kids are doing great. Really invested in school and excited about extracurricular activities and band and orchestra. And I mean, they're just doing amazing. I am very frustrated about the PCA situation, but that's a situation that stems from the state and nobody in this room. And I am really hoping they come through with that assistance for this aunt and uncle, because they are doing some amazing, really hard work with 4 kids. And so I hope that comes through. But again, that is nothing with anybody in this room.
Okay. All right, well, we'll continue the department as temporary managed conservator and continue placement, find the continuing danger to return the children home today, but we'll follow the MSA until a final hearing or order is entered. And we are set for that trial on November 12th of 2024 on a 9 o'clock docket. Obviously, if we can get a signed order, that helps us out a lot. So,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, I appreciate it. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
We're here for a review hearing. We're conducting this through Zoom. We're live streaming. Ms. Galvan's making our record. All right, we'll take announcements.
Daniel Trout for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. Tamara Martinez is my permanency specialist. We are present ready.
Jerry Morales for respondent mother, Sabrina Culver. She is incarcerated at the at the Randall County Detention Center. So she will not be on, Your Honor. But I'm ready.
Joel Jackson, on behalf of the unknown father, present ready.
Stacy Zabala, Cheyenne.
Okay. Ms. Martinez, if you want to give us an update since you filed your court report.
In regards to Miss Colbert, there's not much of an update. She's still at Randall County Jail. Not sure what she's looking at this time. She continues to deny knowing who Cheyenne's father is. So there's no updates on that. In regards to Cheyenne, Cheyenne's been doing really good at her placement. I was made aware of an issue this morning that there's concerns that she's still talking to Mr. Colander. So we'll be addressing that.
I'm sorry, to who?
Jess Colander, her daughter's father that she has a no contact order with.
Yeah. Okay. How do we think that's happening?
I received a call from placement this morning. They informed me that I guess somebody had let them know that Cheyenne had been using their phone to contact Mr. Colander and that he's under the contact of John Doe. And they sent me screenshots of messages and so we're suspecting that's who it is.
Whose phone was this?
Placement did not give me a name.
Okay. All right. Okay, well, all we can do is police that the best that we can. So how's she doing at parenting with the baby?
She's been doing better. The concerns I got in regards to her care for Amelia is this morning they told me that Cheyenne has started working a job, and instead of using her money to like buy the baby diapers or formula, she's spending it on stuff that she wants. And then I guess she's waiting until like the baby's down to 2 or 3 diapers to tell placement, hey, we need more diapers, or hey, instead of telling them in advance, she'll be like, hey, I only have enough formula for 2 more bottles. And so that's the only issue that they've told me with Amelia.
She's 16.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody at placement kind of work on like a budget with her and, kind of take direction of how that money gets spent?
I know they've talked to her about it several times. I don't know if they've discussed budgeting with her, but I can talk to them about it.
Okay. You can never start too early. All right. Mr. Morales, anything to report?
No, Your Honor, I had a conversation with Miss Colbert earlier, over the weekend. She has spoken to both of her attorneys, the attorney out of Potter County once and attorney out of Randall County once. She's hoping to have her case moved, but in my experience, I told her with them being controlled substance cases, by the time they came back from lab, that she really needs to bond out in order to work any kind of services. We're getting pretty close to the end here, and she understands that. So it doesn't seem like she has any great prospects of getting out anytime soon, unfortunately. I don't know that there's anybody that's going to bond her out.
Okay. Mr. Jackson?
Your Honor, at the last hearing, we discovered that Sean Colbert may be the father of Cheyenne, and Sabrina, I believe, testified she thought that he was dead. And we did some searches, and we found a Sean Michael Colbert in Arkansas, Clarkville, Arkansas. We've reached out, called the number that we had and an email address and not received any response. We also located his brother, who is in Bryan, Ohio, and have tried calling and emailing him as well, and we've not gotten any response, and that's about as far as I've gotten.
Okay. Well, at least you've had a few rabbit trails to go down.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, then, Ms. Zavala.
Your Honor, I hate to hear the report on Cheyenne from earlier. When I was able to Zoom with her a week or so ago, she just looked really good. She was, seemed to be good with school and placement, and the reports seemed to be better. So I'm hoping that the Jess situation goes away and that somebody can start working with her on the budgeting. I believe, although I could be wrong, I believe that the job is fairly new, so this whole what to do with her money is a new issue for her. But it's definitely one that I'll talk with her about as well. But in general, she seems to be doing well at placement.
Well, I think it just, she just needs to understand she buys what the baby's going to need first, and then she can have the rest.
Agreed.
Easier said than done with a 16-year-old. All right, then I will continue the department as temporary managing conservator, and we'll continue Cheyenne's placement. I would find there would be a continuing danger to return the child home at this point in time, or impossibility, since mom is incarcerated and we don't really know who dad is. All right, we'll be back for our bench trial on November 19th, 2024, on 9 o'clock docket. So, Mr. Morales, if you want mom brought in, which I assume we definitely want, then we'll need to make those arrangements.
Yes, sir. I'll remind Miss Katie in time. I do know that she wants to attend.
Okay. And we may have to look at the scheduling on that if she's in Randall County, or don't they limit us to certain days and times and all that?
Yes, Judge, it's Tuesday or Thursdays between 1 and 4. So I'll look at that.
Okay. So in all likelihood, then that time on that final is going to change to the afternoon of that day. So I guess Miss Katie will just let everybody know.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Judge.
We're here set for our bench trial today. We are conducting this through Zoom under a finding of good cause and agreement of the parties. We are also live streaming, and Ms. Galvan is making our record today. Okay. Let's go ahead and take announcements.
Daniel Trial for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. We're present, ready, Your Honor.
Stacey Grant on behalf of the mother, Tesla Barsavage, and will announce not ready, Judge.
Jerry Morales for respondent father J. Tanner Carnes, Your Honor. He is incarcerated in ISF unit and was recently pulled into that unit. I've not had a chance to speak with him. I'm not ready.
Stacey Zavala on behalf of Evelyn.
Okay. Let's take up the issue with respect to Mr. Morales' client first. I did read that he had recently gone into an ISF or a Safe P or something program. Safe P, right?
That's correct, Your Honor. I think it's ISF because it says 90 days. And when I saw the report, unfortunately, Mr. Carnes did not communicate that to me, and it was not done by a motion, so it was done by supplemental order. He talked to, I guess, probation. They worked that out and did not make me aware of that. By the time I found out, it was in the report, and he had already been transferred to ISF, so I haven't been able to arrange a visit with him. So I don't know what his understanding of what's going on is with this matter, Your Honor.
Yeah, or to arrange to have him brought in from wherever they sent him.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay, that's the single biggest concern right there. Okay, and then let me just take up Ms. Grant. What is your reason
Your Honor,
for
my
not being
client
ready?
has a twofold issue. First of all, Mr. Carnes was going to be a witness that we would call for her, and that witness is unavailable based on your conversation with Mr. Morales. And second, this case has been ordered referred to mediation with Kyle Lewis, and mediation has not occurred at this time. So we would be requesting an extension past the September 9th deadline in this case for 6 months as allowed by the court to allow us to complete mediation prior to doing a bench trial.
Okay, is this problem with mediation just been scheduling?
It kind of fell through the cracks, Your Honor. Once we saw that it had fallen through the cracks, we tried to get some dates, and the dates did not match up with parties. We had a few parties that could be there on one date, but then one or two couldn't, and we just couldn't get a date over the last few weeks to get it done. But that one did fall through the cracks on us.
All right, well, obviously the bigger concern is Mr. Carnes is a party and he hasn't been brought in, and we don't know whether he wants to or he doesn't want to participate, but until we know that, I've got a problem with moving forward. So I don't see that there's a whole lot of choice but to grant, we could call the case and recess it, but when a party is completely not present, I really don't like doing that. So I think the best thing to do is go ahead and grant the extension in the case, but, and I'll get you guys set for mediation, but, we've got a November 14th date on the calendars. That was supposed to be the first review on this. I'm going to reset the final for that day. And, surely you all can get to mediation by then.
And Judge, the order does say Kyle Lewis. Could we have permission from the court if we need to change mediators in order to make that happen, that we don't have to come back for a hearing for that, and we can send an agreed order?
Yeah, if y'all can't get it worked out with Mr. Lewis, then we definitely we need to look at somebody else.
Thank you, Judge.
And Judge, if the court's not opposed, I can, I'll check with Mr. Tanner's time. The good thing about him being in ISF is that it's a 90-day program regardless, and so I can figure out whether or not he can make a November 14th date. That's going to probably be pretty close. I'm not sure when he exactly pulled chain and got a bed there. And then likewise with mediation, if it's going to be that close, like a matter of, a week or two off, I would definitely prefer that he participate in both of those. So I'll try to coordinate that with Mr. Trout and everyone else.
Yeah. And I don't know how good they are about letting them participate like in a mediation by Zoom with you. I can always sign a court order saying that they need to make him available. Jerry, it might just be you just Zooming with him. If you all mediate in person, and I think Kyle prefers that, but with him it being incarcerated. So, if you need a court order from us that says they will make him available for, to you via Zoom at the time of mediation, I'm happy to do that.
Okay, Your Honor.
Because, as long as he's on with you, then he could effectively participate.
And I guess that I brought it up more just to bring out to the point that in the event that, he's going to be out a couple weeks later, I don't know if the court would be inclined to set this at a later date just to get him in. But if not, I can try to get him on Zoom.
I would be fine with that. If we, we've got the 6 months. I don't like these things to just linger. So, if we had to push it into December or something like that, we probably could.
Okay, Judge, thank you.
And Jerry, I know, I think it said 90 days somewhere. I know his supplemental order is no less than 45, no more than 120. So I don't know if he's set on a 90-day track or if he's looking at plus or minus a little bit on that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and I don't know when he actually got a bed, because none of that time is going to count until he actually gets a bed in ISF.
Yeah, I think I saw he got transferred over right at the 1st of August.
Okay.
He was in Randall County Jail for 3 weeks, a month or so, I think, before or it may have been like the 21st or so when he got transferred over. I can't remember exact date.
Okay.
All right. So, do we need to go ahead and have a quick review? Let's see.
Can't remember when our last one was.
Our last one was in July.
June or June. Let's see.
I think we need to have one, Judge.
Yeah, I think so. So why don't we just then get a quick update from Miss Bird, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right,
And-
Miss Bird, if you want to just give us a update.
Judge, real quick, if we could release Ms. Swihart, if we're not going through with the final today, she was my investigator on the removal part, so.
Any objection, counsel?
No objection.
No objection.
No objection.
And Ms. Swihart, if you'll just mark down November 14th as the next hearing date.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right then, Ms. Bird.
Yes. So Evelyn is doing well in her placement. She's meeting her milestones. She's starting to walk. She's doing really well since the last hearing. She is 1 now. So I have no concerns with placement. She's doing well. She does have visits with her mom, a minimum of at least 2 visits per month. Some are virtual, some are in person, kind of depending on her placement's schedule since they live in between 2 homes. So those visits are going well. For Tesla, she did complete her services. We did have a positive hair strand on June 26th. And so it was positive for methamphetamines. Since her positive drug screen.
Your Honor, I would object to the entry of the results of any drug screens in a permanency hearing. I mean, you can't unring the bell, but I just wanted to make my record.
I understand. Okay, and I mean, we don't have business records before us and all that, so, okay.
So I did meet with parent to have another OSAR evaluation. So we are still waiting for her to complete the OSAR evaluation as well as a follow-up. So we do have a few more services to complete due to another OSAR evaluation needing to be completed. Mr. J. Tanner Carnes has not been in contact with me. I know he's kind of been in and out of Randall and Potter when I would try to check in between June, July. And then I was told in July that he turned himself into Randall County and then was sent to ISF. So I have not had contact with Mr. Carnes.
Okay. All right, and everything's good with Evelyn?
Yes, she's developmentally on target and walking and babbling, smiling. She's doing really well.
Great. Okay, and she's with paternal grandparents, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. All right then, Ms. Grant, anything today?
Your Honor, just that we wanted the court to be aware that the hair follicle that raised some concerns was taken, we believe, after an incarceration in Randall County Jail, and we have issues with that we will take up upon final if it becomes necessary. And as far as visitation, it's going well. We've had lots of negative drug screens in this case, and visits are still supervised, so we were asking for an increase in time.
Right, the drug test that y'all have been referring to, is that the one done in August?
I think they're referring to the ones in June. Your Honor.
In June.
Yes,
All right, did we get drug screens back in August? Have we gotten those in yet?
She submitted one August, I believe it was the 22nd, Your Honor, which I haven't received yet. I wasn't actually served with the final court report through the e-file system, so I had to locate it. And I believe that when that report was filed, it was still pending, but I can't speak after the date of the filing of the report on the 22nd.
Jalissa, do you know those come back in?
Yes, it was just a UA on the 21st of August, and it was negative on the UA.
And what kind of contact is she having right now?
So since placement lives in Big Springs, she comes to Amarillo for the visits. So she generally tries to come twice a month. So they're generally having visits in person twice a month. And then outside of that, we did approve for them to have virtual or FaceTime visits. As far as the time frame, Tesla has told me they have only been an hour. We did approve for it to be 2 hours, so I did talk with placement about the visits, and she said they were going well. They generally go over the 2 hours, just because they usually go out to eat or grab groceries together and different things.
And that was the placement is going above and beyond to travel, Your Honor. And that's why, since it's just twice a month and there is some length of travel, that we would like to see maybe 4 hours or so, time enough to maybe eat and go take the children to maybe a park or walk around the mall. So just to spend some bonding time due to the age of the child. The child is, just 1 year old, and twice a month is not much bonding time for them.
And Judge, we would ask today go ahead and get a hair and a UA done on mom today, and pending those being clean, we're happy to increase visits.
Well, the UA was so recent.
Yes.
So I'll say, let's do another hair so we can take a look at that. And, as long as that's negative or at a lower level than what that prior one was, then I'm okay with saying, let's try to bump the visits up to, 3 to 4 hours. I don't know what, I don't know what grandparents are doing. If they're coming and going in one day, that's a long day for them and a long day for the child. So, if that's what they're doing and they're not staying overnight, much more than 3 hours may be kind of difficult. I mean, if they're in Big Spring, that's a 3-hour trip from here.
They do have a home in Adrian, Texas. So she generally stays 3 to 4 days for appointments and different things. They have a home in Adrian as their primary home. She did tell me that they generally have more than 2 visits. We just set a minimum a month. So when she's there for extended days, she generally will see Tesla at least once or twice in that week span if she's here. So we kind of, and she did say there are about 2 to 4 hours visits, just depending what they have going that day.
Okay. Well, it sounds like they're already kind of doing that. So.
And I'm not sure that, Judge, that I don't have all the details, but I know that mom doesn't agree with that assessment of the length of times of the visits. And so that's why I just thought I would clarify on the record today what the new minimum would be. And then obviously if they can do more, that's great. And if the appointments while they're here are for the child, I wanted to be sure that, like if they're doctors or appointments or whatever for the child, I wanted to be sure that my client knew the dates and times of the appointments so she could be present at her child's medical appointments.
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
Thank you, Judge.
So let's say the new minimum is 3 hours, but if they can accommodate more, obviously that's great.
Yes, ma'am. And I have just a couple of questions for Ms. Bird real quick, Your Honor.
Sure.
Ms. Bird, after the drug screen that's from June, mom was ordered for another OSAR, is that correct?
That's correct.
Has she done the new OSAR yet?
She has not. We did talk, actually, we met on Friday, and so she does plan to schedule that today.
Okay. And is she going back to counseling?
I did, we did kind of talk about the relapse, and she did say she has a lot of anxiety. And so we did talk about going back to therapy or a follow-up with her doctor, as she said she would prefer to follow up with her doctor.
Okay. And is that getting set up to your knowledge?
I know when we talked about it in July, it was not set up. It has not been set up in the last month. So we talked about her needing to get that set up today as well.
Okay. So mom is aware she's getting the OSAR set up and is aware she needs to be setting up with the doctor or counselor for her to start that back up.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I'll pass, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Grant, anything else?
I think that was everything we had, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, Mr. Morales?
I have no other updates, Your Honor.
Okay.
Real quick, Your Honor, Jerry, just so you know, looks like off of Randall County's site, Dad was transferred around August 16th.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Ms. Zavala?
Your Honor, Evelyn is doing great with paternal grandparents. I believe in general they work pretty well with mom, but I think any adjustment should be handled. I think we can increase on that. But placement is good, and I've got no recommendation for that to change at this time.
Okay, Mr. Trout, do we have a new dismissal date figured out yet?
Do not. I was thinking of something else, Your Honor. Sorry.
Okay,
Let me see.
I don't know possibly what it could be. Just one or two things going on today.
Like March 7th of 2025.
All right, thank you. Okay, then I will continue the department as temporary managing conservator. I'll continue the child's current placement. Find there would be continuing danger to return the child home today, but the mother is complying with her service plan. Say that mom can have a minimum of 3 hours visitation twice a month or is agreed upon with placement. Order her to go do a hair test today before 4 p.m. And she can attend doctor's appointments along with placement when those things come up. As previously said, I'm going to grant the extension in the case, and we'll set that new dismissal date of March 7th, 2025 as the new drop dead date, but we will be back for our final on November 14th of 2024 on a 9 o'clock docket. Unless Mr. Morales' client, you know, if we need to shift that a few weeks, then, you know,
Yes,
I will work with you on that.
Okay.
But for now, it's set for November 14th. So if you can just let Miss Katie know about that as soon as possible. Obviously, I want y'all to get to mediation and see what you can do there. And again, Jerry, if you need an order to get him to appear,
Okay, Judge.
to make him available at least to you.
Okay.
So, okay, very good. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you in November.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And I'll email Mr. Lewis here this afternoon and try to get that started today.
Okay. All right. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Judge. Have a good day.
You guys too.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Do I understand correctly that we have another hearing in a bit?
We do at 1:30.
Could I speak to Mr. Trout for just a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I'll set
It's
you
not,
up.
it's not Daniel's case.
Yeah, it's
It's
not
not
me.
his, that's right. It's not his case.
Oh, okay. Well, then never mind.
Yeah.
Is that something I need to be on as St. Francis?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
No, it's been presented. I didn't sign it based on the affidavit. I've set it for what would normally be called an ex parte hearing.
Okay.
Except parents happen to have another case and they already have attorneys, so it's a little it's kind of different. But
Judge, if you'll let me talk to Tippy real quick, I'll just let her.
Judge, is that Mr. Graff? Then
Yes.
I have not
Yes.
seen any emails today, so I'm having to go back and look at them.
it is his case.
Okay.
So Mr. Trout, you and Ms. Watson can go back into room 1.
Thank you, Judge.
Yep. And then an affidavit was presented to me by the Department of Family and Protective Services on Friday regarding a request for a legal removal of the child. I set this for what normally would be known as an ex parte hearing. As everybody's aware, the court can either entertain the removal based on a sworn affidavit or set for hearing. Since parents have the other case, the existing case, and we're both represented by attorneys, I felt much more comfortable going ahead and just setting this for a hearing since they already have legal representation. So even though normally they wouldn't have attorneys, they do in this situation, but we're going to go ahead and reference it as the ex parte hearing since that would keep it consistent with the statute. All right, then we'll go ahead and let me just announce that we are going to conduct this through Zoom under finding of good cause and agreement of the parties. We are live streaming, and we do have Ms. Galvan making a record today. Okay, we'll go ahead and take announcements. Oh, Mr. Groff, you're muted.
Sorry about that, Judge. Gene Graff and Heather Denicky on behalf of the department, present and ready to proceed.
Savannah Kincaid, I represent Ms. Tenner. We're present and ready.
Joel Jackson on behalf of Tyrone Lewis, present and ready, Your Honor.
Yes, ma'am.
Stacy Zavala for the baby.
All right. Okay, so just to be clear, because I know there may appear to be significant overlap, but you know, this is not the adversary hearing. If this is more, I'm interested in the department offering their facts necessitating removal of the child, what efforts have been made to avoid that. And then again, because parents are represented by attorneys, you know, I may want some input from counsel and their clients as well. You know, it's a little hard to draw these lines, but you know, just everybody keep in mind, this is not the full-blown adversary hearing. So, okay, then Mr. Groff, who's your first witness today?
Heather Denicky, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Denicky, if you would please raise your right hand. All right, and counsel, while some of you were in a breakout room, the maternal grandmother logged in. I think someone intends, Mr. Jackson maybe, or someone intends to call her as a witness. She is present. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that she was present in the courtroom by telephone.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Groff, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Denicky, are you the investigative social worker in this case?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And did you write and sign the affidavit that accompanied the removal petition?
Yes.
Okay. And is the information in that affidavit true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
I understand there's a couple of corrections we're going to put on the record to revise one or two points that were in the affidavit. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to start right out. Do you believe there's a current and continuing danger to Zeke if he remains in the care of his parents?
Yes.
Okay. And how old is he?
It's about approximately 5.5 weeks old.
Okay. And does he have any special needs?
No.
Okay. And the parents, just for the record, who are the child's parents?
Mahala Tenner and Tyrone Lewis.
Okay. And has paternity been established?
I believe it's presumed that Tyrone is the father.
Okay. Any reason to believe Indian Child Welfare Act applies?
No.
Okay. And keeping in mind that this is not an adversary hearing, I'll ask you to keep this next part brief. But just for the purposes of the record, does the family have a prior CPS history?
Yes.
Okay. And are there any currently pending criminal investigations or charges related to any of the issues in your investigation that you were aware of?
No.
Okay. What about the related to prior CPS history and prior cases?
I don't believe there are any charges pending at this time.
Okay. So what were the allegations that led you to be assigned?
I was assigned this case. This case came in as a vital statistics case, which is whenever there's been a child fatality in a previous case. So the allegations came in as the same as the prior case, which were that of neglectful supervision and physical.
Okay. And there was a fatality in the prior case then regarding one of the children, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And were there also concerns in that case relative to the surviving children?
Yes, there were.
Okay. And can you just be a little specific for purposes of the court record?
Sure. When Zakiah, the child that passed away, was taken to the hospital initially. They did scans of Zyadrian, the other 1-month-old twin's brain, and they thought that there was a brain injury, but they couldn't be certain because he was moving. So they did another one a couple of weeks later, and they did find evidence of a traumatic brain injury for Zyadrian.
Okay. And with regard to the child who passed, what is your understanding of the medical cause of death?
She had a subdural hemorrhage on her right frontal lobe, I can't maybe pronounce all these names correctly, a subarachnoid hemorrhage overlying her right frontal lobe. And the doctor who completed the preliminary autopsy said that the injuries found were consistent with possible shaken baby syndrome.
Okay. So based on the information the department has relied on, that's an initial cause for safety concerns regarding the child, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Were there any concerns about substance abuse?
Yes, there was marijuana. There were a large quantity, I believe over 5 pounds of marijuana found in the home at the time of that first removal. And there were concerns that all of the children at the first removal were born with meconium positive for marijuana. Are you asking about this case? I'm getting off track, I think.
Yeah. I mean, both really, but you can segue into this case now.
Okay, and so for this case, we do have concerns because Zeke, the newborn, was born.
I'm going to object to hearsay.
Sustained.
Okay. Your Honor, do you have the exhibit we filed prior to the hearing?
Let me see if I've got that. Was it something that was emailed to us or was it filed?
I believe it was emailed and filed, but I'm not sure the email went to Your Honor.
Your Honor, in any event, I'm going to object. The document hasn't been properly authenticated with the business records affidavit.
Well,
okay. I'm assuming we're talking about the drug test.
The meconium,
Yes.
Your Honor, yes.
All right. I did get exhibit. Well, let's see. Wait a minute. Let me look and see what I've got. Hang on just a minute. All right. I got some exhibits that Ms. Kincaid had emailed. Those are mother's exhibits. Okay. I got petitioner's exhibit A. Is that the one you're referencing?
That is, Your Honor. If I can just respond to counsel, this is not an adversary hearing. This was an emergency hearing. There was no time to comply with the business records rule. And I would say that the parents' exhibits would fail for the same reason. However, I'm willing to stipulate if counsel is willing to stipulate.
The only exhibit that I'm going to have that would need authentication has been filed in a different case. I think that the judge can take judicial notice of those records.
Okay. It is not an adversary hearing. And so I'm going to overrule and I'm going to allow him to introduce the exhibit. His witness is obviously not qualified to testify as an expert about the content of that exhibit or interpret those drug test results or anything of that nature. But for just admission of the document itself, I'm going to overrule and I'll allow it.
Thank you, Your Honor. So based on information you received as part of your investigation, did you have reason to believe that there had been some substance use?
Yes.
Okay. And is that based on the meconium results that we're submitting as Exhibit A?
Yes.
Okay. But it's true that all the mother's UAs since that time or during the time that the case was open have been clean. Is that not correct?
For the department, correct.
Okay. And do you still have concerns about substance use? I mean, is the concern about active substance use, or is there another concern that caused you to list that as an issue in the affidavit?
My concern would be with the lack of candor, like Mahala not being honest when she was asked about her substance use during pregnancy.
And what leads you to believe there was a lack of candor about substance abuse during pregnancy?
That would be because when asked about it, she denied that she had used any or ingested marijuana in any way during her pregnancy. And then I consulted with the department's substance abuse specialist, and they told me that the only way a substance could be transferred to the baby would be if the mom had actually ingested the substance herself.
Okay, so that's the basis of the belief. Is it fair to say that substance abuse itself is not a primary concern for you at this time?
Correct.
Okay. It appears from your reports that the parents have been cooperative and that Zeke has appeared healthy, nourished, and without injuries whenever you've observed him. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And the parents also did sign a safety plan on or about August 8th, did they not?
Yes.
And what did they agree to in that service plan?
They agreed that all of their contact with Zeke would be supervised at all times, 24/7. And we set up Marilyn Tenner and Shelley Adams as the supervising parties for that.
And for the court's benefit, who are Madeline Tenner and Shelley? I'm sorry, the last name escapes me.
Marilyn Tenner is maternal grandmother, and Shelley Adams is a family friend.
Shelley Adams, thank you. Okay. And was there anyone else under the terms of the agreement authorized to provide supervision at that time?
No.
Okay. Was there anything else they agreed to do besides the supervised visitation at that point in time?
No, that was it.
Okay. And do you have reason to believe that the supervision terms have been violated?
I do.
And what was it? Was it a single instance, or were there multiple instances to your knowledge and understanding?
There were multiple instances.
Can you explain to the court what those are?
Yes. So I'm looking for the date that I went by their house. So can I have just a
Need a
minute for
moment
that?
to refresh your recollection. If you could just take a look and then.
Yes. And I'm ready now. So
Okay.
on August 27th, I went and parked outside the home at about 7:04 in the morning. I was able to clearly see the front door and see who was entering and leaving the home at that time. At about 7:16, I saw Tyrone leave the home. No one else had left the home before that time. Tyrone left the home, got in the car, left. A short time later, came back and had Shelley Adams, a supervising party, in the car with him. They both got out and entered the home. Then a short time later, Tyrone left. At that point, I went up to the house and contacted Shelley and Mahala. I was told Marilyn wasn't in the home. I did not see Marilyn in the home at that time. So that left, at least approximately 25 minutes that there was no supervising party with Zeke at that time.
So it's your understanding that Marilyn left before you got there at 7:15, or what time was it again?
It was around 7:04, and yes, that's my understanding. That's my belief.
Okay. And what was the agreed on arrangement in terms of handing off supervision duties?
That Marilyn would not leave until Shelley was there
Okay.
in the mornings when Marilyn went to work.
Now, was that the only instance of that morning unsupervised access that you're aware of? Were there others?
There's another one that I'm aware of. They had a doctor appointment for Zeke on August 16th. And that was after the safety plan was put in place. And when I spoke with the pediatrician's office, I was told that they did not have anyone with them at that doctor visit.
Okay. Do you also have reason to believe that any other unauthorized persons were supervising or providing care to Zeke?
I do, in regards to the ongoing CPS case with St. Francis on their Saturday visitations. Yes.
Okay. Now there was some communication between you and the mother and perhaps the mother's counsel about whether or not those persons had actually been authorized. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And just so we don't confuse the issue, can you identify who these two unauthorized persons were?
It would be Brandy Parker and Evelyn Coleman.
Okay. Now, have they, since this was brought to the attention of the parents, or since you raised this issue, what did you do to determine whether or not they'd been authorized?
I talked with the St. Francis caseworker.
Okay. And what did you learn?
That they had not been authorized previously.
Okay. Have they since been authorized?
I believe they have been, or
Okay.
at least I believe maybe Brandy has been.
Okay.
Would you, it was Brandy, the names again,
Parker? I'm sorry.
Brandy Parker, and what was the other one?
Evelyn Coleman.
Okay. All right, thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Now, had they been identified when you met with the parents to go over the safety plan as potential supervisors?
Not to me. They gave me the name of Marilyn and they gave me the name of Shelley.
Okay. Okay. And so the fact that they're, from your perspective, have been unauthorized persons supervising, or there was no one supervising, which violated the terms of the safety plan, does that alone give you reason to believe that it's contrary to Zeke's welfare to remain in the parent's care at this time?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you've reported in your affidavit also concerns regarding whether either parent believes the other poses a safety risk to the child. Is that right?
Correct.
Can you explain to the court why that is concerning to you as it relates to Zeke's physical health and safety?
It's concerning to me because even though the court has made some interventions and the parents have been in compliance with their services, neither of the parents believes that the other one poses a risk to Zeke, and he's so young and vulnerable. With the issues that the facts that have been brought up already in this court hearing, we feel that the Zeke is at a serious risk of immediate danger.
Okay, so the mere compliance with services doesn't necessarily reflect a qualitative, substantive remediation of the parenting concerns. Is that a fair way to describe it?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. And so is it your testimony then that the combination of the unexplained fatality, the apparent lack of concern by the parents over safety, the safety plan violations, and the lack of candor that you testified to regarding at least mother's substance abuse does create a danger to Zeke's physical health and safety?
Yes.
And you believe that's caused by the parents' acts or failures to act in a protective, responsible way, particularly with regard to the safety plan violations?
Yes.
Okay. And do you believe the urgent need for protection requires his immediate removal pending an adversary hearing?
Yes.
Okay. Have you made any efforts to enable Zeke to remain in the home?
Yes, with the safety plan being the first one. We also had discussed a parental child safety placement and had looked into some potential caregivers, but our goals have changed since we have looked at those caregivers.
Okay, in what way?
We are now looking at removal, possibly kinship placement.
Okay. All right, thank you. Nothing further. Pass the witness.
Okay. I would like to clarify just a few things. So, Ms. Denicky, if you know, is the maternal grandmother still residing in the home with the parents?
I don't know at this time.
Okay. And since the violations of this safety plan, then we've got two other individuals who've been approved as care or supervising parties.
That's my understanding from St. Francis. Yes.
So we would have a total of 4 at this time.
Yes.
And possibly if maternal grandmother is still living in the home, then we've got her there in the home overnight. But I don't know, just let me just ask, does Mr. Graff, do you know the answer to that question? Is she still living in the home, or has she moved out?
Well, actually, I appreciate Your Honor raising that issue because there is reference in the affidavit about some concerns, and perhaps Ms. Denicky can elaborate for the court's benefit about where grandmother is actually living. I think there was some concerns raised about that, and she can document some investigatory efforts she did to determine whether or not she was actually living there.
And I read through the entire affidavit, and there was some reference about it, and I never really did. I never really could determine if there was a conclusive answer to that. So, Ms. Denicky, I mean, again, if your answer is that you really are not sure, then
I'm not sure. It was never clear to me that she had been living in the home at any point.
And why do you say that?
The very first visit that I made in the home, there was no mention made of her, and there was no living area for her, no bed, no place for her. Then when I visited the home on the day that I found the safety plan to be violated, there was no space where they said she was sleeping, there was no space for her there. But when I went back the next morning, all of a sudden there was a bed made up and a little backpack and some shoes to look like someone was staying there. At that point, they had been made aware that we had concerns, and to me, it looked like they had fixed things really fast.
Okay. And what was the discussion about that? Was it going to be that she was going to actually move into the home, and maybe you're not the person to ask this question, and if you are, just tell me. But was the intent that she would really physically move into the home, or was the intent that she would be in the home overnight and sleeping, or within proximity of the children during those overnight hours? In other words, and then she could go on to work and go back to her home and, do whatever she needed to do at home and then come back into their house at night. I mean, what do we know what the intent was there originally?
I was told that she was living in the home. She told me that, and parents told me that. The agreement with the safety plan was they were going to move a bed or something into the room where the crib was at, so she could provide that 24-hour supervision. So it was my understanding she was just going to change sleeping from wherever she was sleeping before to that area, but that she did already live in the home.
Okay. Was there ever any other explanation given to you by either of the parents about what those arrangements were?
No, not by the parents. I was told by the other supervising party that she knew that maternal grandmother slept on the couch, and that's why there wasn't a bed or anything in that room. Which would have still been violating the safety plan, because she was supposed to, the agreement was she could see and hear everything all the time when parents were around Zeke.
All right, and that perhaps is a question better directed at somebody from St. Francis who's been involved in those direct conversations, but I appreciate it. Okay. All right, Ms. Kincaid, do you have any questions for Ms. Denicky?
I do, Your Honor, just one second. Okay, so the reasons for that the department is seeking removal is because of the morning of August 27th. Is that correct?
It's part of it, yes.
Okay, and then the alleged doctor's appointment on, was it August 16th or July 16th? August 16th.
August 16th.
Okay, and the department looked into placement or tried to enter into a placement agreement. Is that correct?
We did look into parental child safety placement.
Okay, and is the person, who was it that you looked into?
We looked into Georgetta Quincy and Felicia Mayberry.
Okay, and were either of them approved?
No, not at this time. Like I said previously, the goal has changed from a parental child safety placement to removal with a possible kinship placement.
Okay, where's the child placed now?
The parents have taken him. He's not placed anywhere with the department. The parents have taken him to Georgetta's house.
Okay, so you don't know if she's approved or not, is that correct?
She is not officially approved as a caregiver.
Okay, so if she is not approved and the children have placed her there, why would that be?
Can you clarify that question?
You asked that the child be removed from their care at this time, is that correct?
I do ask that right now, yes.
But you asked them to do that last week in a meeting, is that correct?
I asked them to come up with potential caregivers for a parental child safety placement. I did not ask them to put the child anywhere.
Okay, so if the child needed to be placed outside of the home with a family caregiver, and they found people for you to place where you could place the child, why did you not look into them and continue to look into them to mitigate the reasons for removal?
I did continue to look into them, and our goals changed. Instead of a parental child safety placement, we were asking for a removal.
Okay, so if the child were to be removed, who would you be looking into to place the child?
I'm not sure at this time.
Would it be Georgetta?
I couldn't, I don't know. I
Okay.
couldn't say yes or no.
Okay. Have you been made aware of the drug screens that Ms. Tenner has taken for the department for the year of 2024?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know the results of those drug screens, both hair follicle and UA?
Not off the top of my head, but I've been told that there was a hair follicle that was positive in 2023 and that the UAs were negative.
Okay. And then in 2024, were there any positive hair follicle or UA drug screenings?
Not for the department.
Okay. And were you made aware of a hair follicle and UA that was filed this morning with the court?
Yes.
Okay. And that would have been, do you know the results of that one?
I was told they were negative, or that mom was negative, and Tyrone's has not come back yet.
Okay. And so she did both a hair follicle and a UA, is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay. And how far back does a UA typically go?
I'm not an expert in that, so I couldn't answer that.
Okay. So you don't know how far back a UA typically goes? Typically.
It depends on the substance, and it depends on how heavy of a user the person is.
Okay. Do you know how long a hair follicle typically goes back?
I believe it's 3 months.
Okay. You also had some testimony saying that the parents, even though they've completed their services, you don't feel like they have made necessary changes. Is that correct?
Correct.
That wouldn't be for this case, though. Is that correct?
Well, they haven't completed any services for this case.
Sure. So the question I have for you is, we had a meeting probably a month ago where all of us were in a room together to go over the safety plan. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you asked them questions about the things that they had learned in some of the classes that they took. Is that correct?
Yes.
And did they indicate to you that they had learned things in those classes?
They did not indicate to me that they had learned anything to change their protective capabilities with their children.
Okay.
They indicated that.
Sorry, go ahead.
They indicated they had learned that children's development is due to parents' interaction with them, and that's the only thing that they indicated that they had learned from services.
Okay. Now could you understand that if Ms. Tenner and Mr. Lewis don't believe that they did anything wrong in the first case, that they wouldn't see a need to learn from some of those classes?
No, I think they completed some services such as drug services, and then we still have a positive meconium on the baby. So that would indicate to me that, you know, whether they think they did something wrong or not, they haven't learned anything.
Okay, so if in fact the reason for removal in the previous case, if in fact they didn't do anything wrong, do you see how they would feel like they wouldn't benefit from some of the classes?
No, I don't. I think all parents can benefit from services that were offered.
Okay, but okay, 1 second. Sorry, Your Honor, this is a long affidavit. So in the affidavit on what I've got is page 19. I'm not sure because it's not labeled on here. It says that through services Ms. Tenner's had, they have helped her learn about babies and kids. She is still young, even though she has 4 kids. She learned about development and stuff parents are in control of, and about parent interactions with children. She learned children's development goes off parents talking to the children. She realizes this plays a big role in their development. So she did say that she had benefited from some of the classes that she had taken.
Correct. That's what I mentioned before, what she had told me that she learned.
Okay, thank you. I'll pass witness.
Okay, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Judge. Ma'am, when you were going over the questions with these parents, Ms. Kincaid and I were present at that meeting, correct?
Yes.
And I think just generally overall, you had asked them what they had learned from the classes that they took. Does that seem accurate?
I don't recall the exact wording. It may have been something like that, or what they learned from services they've completed.
Okay, but as far as the services were concerned, it was a very general question, right?
Sure.
And they gave you a general answer, correct?
Correct.
And so there wasn't anything that you didn't direct a question for them that was geared toward their protective capabilities. I mean, you didn't ask them that question, did you?
In regards to services, no.
Okay. Also, we had, you and I had talked about placement, I think on or about August the 26th. And that's when we were looking at the parental child safety placement. And we had talked about Georgette Quincy, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And her daughter, Gisetta Lewis, also, who lives with her. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. That's on the 26th. And then on the 28th, I was visiting with you, I believe. And we're still looking or talking about Georgetta. And I think that you had concerns about her because of a degenerative disc problem she has.
We had some concerns about her disability and specifically the medication that she takes for her disability.
Okay. And you called and asked me about that, and you asked Ms. Kincaid about that. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then on August the 30th, which is the date that you signed this report, in your report, you're stating that family reunification is the goal. Today is September the 3rd. When did that change?
On the day that I submitted the affidavit was the date that I was told we were going to ask for removal.
Okay, would that have been the day that it was filed?
Yes, it was the same day it was filed.
Okay. And what day was that filed?
It was filed on Friday. Friday was August 30th.
Okay, so you changed your goal on the same day that you signed the affidavit saying that reunification was the goal.
Yes.
Okay. Earlier you had, I just want to ask you about this. Even though that you testify that substance abuse is not a primary concern, we seem to be talking a lot about this meconium issue. When did you learn about the meconium issue?
That was in the very beginning of the investigation. I would have to go back and look at the affidavit to see what day that was. Can I have a minute to do that?
Okay, that's fine. Zeke, just to help you, Zeke was born on July 26, 2024. Would you have happened to learn about that around that time?
No, I learned about it on August 5th.
August the 5th, okay. But before then, you were aware of the fatality, correct?
Correct. And August 5th is the same day I received our intake for this investigation.
Okay.
So before August 5th, I wasn't aware of anything.
Okay, you weren't aware of the fatality of the other child?
Not before August 5th. I was not involved in this case or this family before August 5th.
Okay, but it'd be a fair assessment to say that the department was, right?
Yes.
Okay, and so the point that I'm trying to get at is the child's born on the 26th, and then we're here knocking on the door 38 days later about all these concerns for this child, and this child was a week later. And so 38 days later, we have all these concerns that the department's been aware of all along. So if it wasn't important when the child was born then, why is it important now?
It was important when the child was born, and that's why we put in the safety plan.
And I think in your report had indicated that despite extensive, your sentence, maternal grandmother who's maintained she does not believe either parent could have intentionally inflicted injury on the children, despite extensive medical evidence to the contrary. What extensive medical evidence are you referring to?
I'm referring to the medical reports that St. Francis has, and they have in the previous investigation and the preliminary autopsy report.
Okay, is it the autopsy report that you're relying on?
It's a combination of both.
Okay. And so we had a doctor that took care. I mean, how many physicians are looking at this? I mean, I haven't seen these records. I've seen the autopsy report. What constitutes extensive?
Well, both of the twins were found to have brain injuries. One of them passed away due to those brain injuries. And I mean, that's what I'm referring to.
Okay. And so you have twins, they have the same injury?
They both had what was considered a traumatic brain injury with bruising to their brain.
Okay. And did you, as a part of your investigation, look into whether the birth of those children could have caused that?
No, I have not.
Okay. You think that might be something worthwhile to look into?
Possibly.
If I'm mistaken about this, ma'am, just let me know. But I think that when we were talking about the safety plan and the people that you all had agreed on to supervise, that Marilyn Tenner and Shelley Adams were the only ones that were approved to watch over these kids. Am I accurate in saying that?
For the CPS, not for these kids, for Zeke, only as it pertains to Zeke.
That's what I'm referring to.
Okay.
And so those were the only two, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. But isn't it true that Felicia Mayberry had gotten approval to watch the kids while the parents go to Hereford to visit their other two children that are in foster care?
That may have been by St. Francis, and I was aware they were doing that, but Felicia was never officially approved by anyone. And she was not approved to be a supervising party for the parents at any point in time.
Okay. Okay. So she can watch the child when they're gone, but she just can't watch them when they're there.
I mean, I guess so. I'm not the one who put that into place. That was in place before I got this case.
Your Honor, I'll pass the witness.
Okay, so Mr. Jackson, what you're saying, that someone said Felicia had been approved to babysit Zeke while the parents went to see the other children. But
yes, ma'am.
She wasn't approved. The issue is she wasn't approved necessarily as a supervising party to mother and father.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right.
Oh, Your Honor, I do have one other question. I'm sorry.
Sure.
If I may. Ma'am, I think that you had made reference in your report. There was an August 16th doctor visit where the doctor, I think, had told you that the parent showed up with nobody there with him, with Zeke, for Zeke to make a doctor's appointment. Is that correct?
I talked to the social worker at Texas Tech who said that the only people in attendance at that visit were Mahala and Tyrone, and no one else was there.
Okay. Would it surprise you to know that Shelley Adams was present in the car? That she accompanied them on their way to the hospital, to the doctor's appointment?
I wouldn't know one way or the other if that happened or not.
Did you bother asking them?
I didn't, but regardless, she was in
I'll
the
pass
car.
the witness, Your Honor.
Okay. Mrs. Sabala?
So, Ms. Denicky, I apologize. I have not had time to read the entire affidavit, but I have questions about the portion of the affidavit regarding Marilyn Tenner. There's a paragraph that you say on August 26th, I contacted Marilyn Tenner by phone for clarification. Is that you? You're the one that spoke to Marilyn?
Yes.
Okay. And so did she tell you that she works every single Saturday and has never supervised a visit on Saturday?
She did.
And did I read it right that she actually reiterated that same statement in 2 separate conversations?
I'm not sure if it was 2, but it was definitely more than one conversation that she told me that. Was very adamant about it.
I pass witness.
All right, Mr. Groff, any further questions of this witness?
Just a few quick redirect questions, Your Honor, if I may. Ms. Denicky, isn't it fair to say that while the parents may have learned some things in their parenting classes in light of the surrounding circumstances, your position is that whatever they've learned about child development is insufficient to mitigate the present danger, and that's the department's concerns, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and with regard to the parent-child safety placement, those are time limited, aren't they?
Yes.
And is that 30 days, 45 days, 60 days? What is the limitation on that?
30 days.
Okay. And so counsel was asking you about the change in goals. Isn't it true that family reunification is almost always the goal in every case, absent aggravated circumstances?
Yes.
And that's the overarching goal of a TMC case, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, so when you say your goals changed, really what you're referring to is that the PCSP wasn't going to resolve the issues in 30 days. And so therefore, your goal changed about pursuing a PCSP in this particular case. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And as far as placement for the weekend with Ms. Quincy, essentially that was just you were willing and she was appropriate enough to have the child for the weekend until we could have this hearing and kind of hash the issues out. Isn't that right?
Yes, and I would like to reiterate that the department did not place Zeke there. The parents took him there on their own.
Okay. So, and you didn't have a pickup order at that point in time. We were just in the process of getting this hearing pending.
Correct.
So they had every lawful reason to be able to do that.
Correct.
Okay. And now, isn't it true that there has been a discussion with St. Francis about the possibility of placing Zeke with the siblings in foster care?
Yes.
And I know your question was a little bit equivocal. I mean, would that be your recommendation now if the court was to grant the motion to place with the foster parents, or would it be to stay with the Ms. Quigley and her daughter?
I would say the foster parents of the other children.
Okay, and what is the reason for that?
So he could be with his siblings and maintain the same visitation schedule.
Okay. And lastly, with regard to the doctor visit, if Shelley Adams was there in the car, she certainly didn't supervise when they went into the office, did she?
Correct.
Okay. And have you heard prior to today that Ms. Adams had accompanied them to the travel to the doctor's office?
No.
Okay. And last question. I said that before. This is the last question. Counsel was asking you why you didn't investigate birth trauma as a possible cause for the traumatic injuries that you described. When you have 2 other children in care and unresolved medical questions with medical experts saying this is trauma, would it be reasonable for you at that point to explore another option when that's been out there on the table as far as the other case?
No, that wasn't my investigation, and it already had been investigation, and the department found that it was physical abuse. Okay. So I would not go back and reinvestigate that.
Okay, and I understand there's a hearing in that case later this month, possibly to address some of those issues in the other case, isn't there?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Nothing further. Pass the witness.
Okay. Ms. Kincaid, do you have any further questions?
Yes, just a couple. You expressed a concern that Marilyn Tenner may not have supervised every visit on Saturdays. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. But there are other people approved to supervise those visits. Is that correct?
To my knowledge, there are now, but at the time of when I learned that, there had been no one else approved.
Okay. When did you learn that?
I would have to go back and look at the dates. It would have been after August 27th.
Okay. So Shelley at that point, you're saying wasn't approved to supervise visits?
Correct. Shelley was only supervised to be the supervisor. She was only approved to be the supervising party for Zeke and the parents. She had nothing to do with the other children.
Okay. And what about Brandy Parker?
Brandy Parker had not been approved at that time either.
Okay. So do you see how could you understand if parents had 2 open cases and they get approval from CPS for someone to supervise their visits, they may believe that person is approved by CPS to supervise the visits.
I couldn't speak to what they believed or not. My talking with them in the safety plan, they were aware that it only applied to Zeke and that it was only Marilyn Tenner and only Shelley Adams approved for that.
For the older children? For the older children?
For Zeke only. Whatever I don't know. I couldn't speak to St. Francis and what St. Francis has told them.
Okay, so the Saturday visits, are they with the children, the older children? On Saturdays?
Yes.
Okay, and so there is a supervising party there for those Saturday visits.
Correct. My understanding and from looking at court papers was that Judge Baker ordered that it be maternal grandmother, and that was the only ordered person to supervise those visits.
Okay.
And that's Marilyn Tenner.
Okay, and if Judge Baker had also advised counsel and the parties to find backup supervisors because, people can't be there 24/7 or whatever, if just because it wasn't in the order doesn't mean there weren't additional supervisors approved.
Doesn't mean that there weren't other people who could be approved, but at that time, no one else had been approved by St. Francis.
Okay, I'll pass witness.
Mr. Jackson?
Okay, ma'am, just briefly, it was, I think your recommendation that Zeke be placed with foster parent with his siblings. You're aware that this child's age, because of this child's age, it's a critical time in this child's life that he be around his mother as much as possible for purposes of bonding. Wouldn't you agree?
If it's safe to do so.
Okay. And you had said that the department, I believe, had found that the injury was due to there was a finding, injury due to physical abuse. Correct?
In the previous investigation, yes, we validated that there was a reason to believe that physical abuse had happened to the children by Tyrone and Mihaela.
Okay, so big difference between validating something and a finding. Wouldn't you agree?
That was our finding, and we validated.
Okay. And was it a finding based on this autopsy report you're looking at?
It was partially due to that, yes.
Okay. And isn't it true in the record, or not even in the record, I don't see it anywhere in the autopsy report that says that any of these things are consistent with shaken baby syndrome?
That would have been what our medical expert, the department's medical expert, found at the time from looking at. I'm sorry. From looking at the preliminary autopsy report. When that was not my investigation. When that investigation was completed, the final autopsy report hadn't been received, just the preliminary.
Okay, but you realize that a finding of consistent with something is not a diagnosis. You understand that, don't you?
Sure.
Okay, pass the witness.
All right, Ms. Zavala?
Okay, I'm trying to clear my head a bit because I've been involved extensively in the older boys case, but but have only heard bits and pieces of the investigation. When was it that the meeting was held to approve supervising parties for the baby?
That was the same day that I met with Mr. Jackson and Miss Kincaid and the parents. That was on August 8th.
August 8th?
Yes.
And both Shelley Adams and Marilyn Tenner were approved at that time.
Marilyn Tenner was approved on the 8th, and then the next day Shelley was approved. They had to get a little bit of time to think of a backup person in case Marilyn couldn't be there.
Okay, I pass the witness.
Did the department at any time, but when the department, let me just rephrase this. When the department became aware that maybe we were having some gaps in supervision, did you all at any time sit down with the family and try to chart out, okay, who's going to be here when? You know, who's going to be in the home, 7 days a week, at what times, and when is there going to be a changeover, changing of the guard, and when is there, did anybody ever sit down and say, okay, just to be clear, these are the only two people that have been approved at this point. If you want to look at other people, we can look at other people, but I'm trying to find out what conversations took place along those lines.
That happened on the same, when we first put the safety plan in place on the day that Shelley Adams was approved. I met with both Shelley and Marilyn and the parents, and we did have a conversation what supervision looked like, that at all times, one of them had to be available to see and hear everything, be in the same room with Zeke when he was in the room with their parents. We discussed that they were the only two people that were approved. We discussed Marilyn's work schedule, that she worked from 7:30 in the morning to about 3:30, Wednesdays through Saturdays. And that on those times, Shelley would be the one supervising, and that Shelley had to get to the house before Marilyn left for work on those days. And that she had to stay until Marilyn got back. So I feel like it was clear. Everybody stated understanding and agreement. I feel like it was clear from the very beginning.
Okay.
Your Honor, I do have one follow-up question to that, if I may.
Sure.
Ms. Denicky, did you ever ask Mahalan Tyrone why there was the gap that morning?
I did not.
Pass witness.
Has anybody ever asked that question?
We have, Your Honor, but it's not our turn yet.
Yeah, okay. Ms. Denicky, do you know, did that question ever get asked?
I was told, I believe, it may have been by Georgetta Quincy, that they thought maybe Shelley's car had broken down and Tyrone went to get her. That still doesn't, they didn't notify me, and they still were unsupervised with the baby and breaking the safety plan.
All right, I understand. Okay, I had a feeling it was something along those lines. Okay. Okay, anybody have any further questions for Ms. Denicky?
No, ma'am.
Briefly, Your Honor, Ms.
Sure.
Denicky, you had testified that you were out surveilling the house the morning that you watched Tyrone leave the house, correct?
Yes.
And he had come to a stop at the stop sign near where you were parked.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you roll down your window and ask where you're going? Why are you leaving? Anything like that?
No, I didn't. At that time, I had thought, honestly, that Marilyn would be in the home. I had no reason at that time to believe that Zeke was being unsupervised, that they were being unsupervised with Zeke.
That's the witness.
Okay, anybody else have any questions for Ms. Denicky?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
All right then, Mr. Croft. Any further witnesses?
No, Your Honor, not at this time, unless the court feels the need to hear from the St. Francis worker. I think we covered everything the department wanted to cover.
And I don't know what they would, I mean, I'm not sure what anybody at St. Francis would have personal knowledge of with respect to this removal of Zeke. They aren't the investigating authority unless they would have some information about they were involved in any of these conversations directly.
No, and I don't believe they were. I mean, they certainly weren't privy to my role in the investigation. So unless my client says otherwise, I think we'll rest at this point.
All right. Okay, Ms. Kincaid.
Yeah, yes,
Thank you, Your Honor. I call Mahala Tenner, please.
Your Honor, if I may, could I ask for a brief recess on Ms. Tenner's behalf, real quick?
Sure.
We need a bathroom break.
Yeah, that's fine. No, we'll give everybody just a few minute break.
Thank you.
And Ms. Tenner, how are you related to the child in this case?
I am his grandmother, maternal grandmother.
Okay. And I know that we have two separate cases going on, so I'm going to try to stick with this one as best as I can. Backing up,
yes.
Do you live with Mahala and Tyrone?
Yes, I do. I live with Mahala and Tyrone and have been for a while.
Okay. Do you remember when you moved in there?
Honestly, no, ma'am. I don't remember the exact date, but I've been there since maybe the end of July, maybe some 1st of June, somewhere around in there, maybe.
Okay. And is there anywhere else that you stay occasionally prior to this case opening?
No, ma'am. I don't stay nowhere else but with them. Okay.
And do you recall being a part of a meeting where you agreed to be a supervisor of Zeke and Mahala and Tyrone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And since you agreed to do that, were there any occasions where you left them unsupervised with Zeke?
I have never left them. I'm there every. Are you just talking about on the weekends or during the day or during the week?
All the time.
I left to go to work that one Saturday. Other than that, I'm always there when I'm supposed to be.
So if you're not at work, you're there. Is that fair to say?
Yes, ma'am. If
Okay.
I'm not at work, I'm there with them.
Okay. And do you, other than the morning in question, do you see Shelly come in the house and you guys hand off the baby or however that works?
Me and Shelly?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So what does that look like? Does she just come in the house and you head out the door to work, or what does it look like?
Well, I have to be to work at a certain time. So when she gets there, I give her the baby. I give the baby, hugs and kisses. I hug Miss Shelly and I leave and come to work.
Okay. And whenever you get off of work, is Shelly there?
Yes, she is every single time.
Okay. And have you ever come home from work and Shelly isn't there?
No, ma'am. She's always there when I get home from work.
Okay. And whenever it comes to Saturdays, do you ever supervise visits on Saturdays?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So is it your testimony that whenever you're off work, you supervise on Saturdays?
Yes, I do. Yes, ma'am.
But if you're not at work, but if you are at work,
Shelly. If I'm not at work, Shelly's there or Brandy's there.
Okay. And is it your understanding that they're approved to supervise these visits?
Yes, ma'am. They were approved.
Okay. So just to reiterate, how many times have you ever left the house when Shelly was not there?
And left them unsupervised?
Yes.
Not now time. Except for that one morning when I left to go to work, she had car trouble.
Okay. How did you find out she had car trouble?
She called Tyrone.
Okay. And so what happened then?
It was, I had to be here by 6, I had to be here at least by 6:57. I left about 6:45, 6:45, 6:50, I think I left. He got ready to leave to go pick her up.
Okay. Thank you. I'll pass the witness.
Ms. Tinner, this is Gene Graff. I'm the attorney for the state. I just have one or two quick questions. So your testimony is that there was a moment or there was a day on August 27th when you had to leave before Shelley got there. Do I have that right?
Yes.
Okay. But your testimony is that's the only time.
That's the only time. The only time.
Now, on that morning, did you or Tyrone or your daughter contact the department to let them know that there was going to be a lag before Shelley could get there?
No, I was heading to work. I didn't know that we had to contact the department.
But you did agree to
I
the
mean,
safety.
he left to go get her.
Okay. But you did agree to the safety. You did agree to the safety plan, right, ma'am?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Mrs. Tinner, where do you sleep?
I sleep in the bedroom, in my bed, right where I can see Tyrone and Mahala and the baby and everything.
Okay. Now, that wasn't always the case, though. Wasn't there a period of time where you were sleeping on the couch in the living room?
When a little incident happened with his truck, so I was sleeping on a futon. Just one night. The next day I had my bed.
Okay. So the night you slept on the futon, that was where?
In the very back room.
Okay, you got to help me out, ma'am, because I've never been in the house. What is?
I had a room in the back.
Okay.
I had a room I slept in the back of the house before all of this happened. And they said that with the supervision I had to be, so that's when I moved to the front room.
Okay. So is it your testimony that there was one night where you slept in the back room because you didn't have your bed?
No, I slept in the living room on the couch, and Mahala slept in the living room with me, with the crib and the baby.
Okay. Pass the witness.
He was always supervised.
All right. Mr. Jackson?
Your Honor, I don't have any questions.
Okay. Ms. Zavala?
Ms. Tenner, I'm trying hard not to confuse the two cases, but they are interlinked. And previously, in the other case, I was told that you were going to be supervising the visits for the older boys. Have you ever supervised a visit for the older boys?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so what Ms. Dinicky testified to earlier, that you said you've always worked Saturdays, you've never supervised a visit. Why would she say that?
That is not what she said is not true. I never told her that. I've never even talked to her. I never told her that. Never.
So you said on one Saturday, at least one Saturday you had to work. When was that?
I have supervised every Saturday except for the last two. Miss Shelley was there. They gave me those Saturdays off because of this situation. So I have supervised every Saturday except for two. And someone was there, Shelley.
So you were supervising the visits with the boys until the new case started with Zeke, and Shelley was approved to supervise for Zeke.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So is it your position that
Until
the family thought, hold on.
Hang on.
Is it your position that the family thought that because Shelley was approved to supervise for Zeke, that she was also approved to supervise the other boys?
Yes, ma'am.
And it wasn't until that point that you stopped supervising on Saturday?
It's not that I have stopped, but they cannot give me every Saturday off. My regular schedule before this even happened was working on Saturdays. I work at BSA. I can't just take off like that.
Okay.
But
so,
they have been good enough to let me off on some Saturdays, which was all of those Saturdays except for those 2.
Okay. How many Saturdays did you supervise visits?
All of them, except for the last 2.
How many have there been?
I can't count all of that right now.
When did they begin?
I don't know the exact date.
Do you know approximately?
No, I don't. Ever since this started and the supervision started, I've been there, except for the last 2 Saturdays. So every Saturday from the time it started, I've been there.
So was this 3 months ago, 2 weeks ago, 6 months ago?
When the supervision started with the boys, I have been there.
Was that 6 months ago?
I don't know exactly when the supervision, so I can't give you an exact date.
I pass the witness.
All right, Ms. Kincaid, any further questions?
No questions, Your Honor.
Okay, anybody else have any further questions for Ms. Tenner?
No, Your Honor.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay.
Ma'am, Ms. Tenner, on August the 27th, that's the date. I don't know that you testified to, but at any rate, that was the day that Shelley Adams had car trouble. And you left and you went to work, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I did.
Did you ever talk to Mahala or to Tyrone about how long it took for him to get to the house? I mean, for him to leave the house and go pick up Shelley? Did he ever tell you how long he was away?
Yes, he told. It didn't take long. It didn't take long at all.
Okay. How far does Shelley Adams live from Tyrone and Mahala?
Not real far. Probably just like I think a couple of blocks over around the corner.
Okay. All right. That's the witness.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for Ms. Tenner?
No, Your Honor.
No, ma'am.
Okay. Ms. Kincaid, any further witnesses today?
Yes, Your Honor. May Ms. Tenner be released?
No
Marilyn Tenner, Miss Marilyn Tenner. I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Right. Anybody have any objections?
No objection, Your Honor.
No objection.
No
objection. All right. Ms. Tenner, thank you for joining us. You're free to go back to your job. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Judge.
Uh-huh. Okay. All right, Ms. Kincaid.
I call Mahala Tenner.
Okay. All right. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mahala, you're the mother of Zeke, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And who resides in the home with you?
Tyrone, me, and my mother.
Okay. And how long has your mom lived with you?
She's been living with us since June or July.
Okay. And that was on my advice, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And that was in an effort to reunify in a different case, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So when did you have little Zeke?
I had him on July 26th.
Okay. And did you notify St. Francis in advance that you would be having Zeke?
Yes, ma'am, I did. They known for months.
Okay. And whenever you had Zeke, how long were you in the hospital?
For 3 days.
Okay. And do you remember what day you were discharged?
On a Sunday, I had him the 26th, so the 28th.
Okay. And whenever you went home, who it was you and Tyrone and your mother living in the home. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And at that point, had anybody from the department or St. Francis visited with you in the hospital?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And how long were you at home whenever you were first contacted by, not by St. Francis, but by the department about the new case?
Heather showed up on the 6th of August. So the 28th and between the 28th and the 6th.
Okay. And as a result of that conversation, was there a safety plan put in place?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And who were people that were approved to supervise your contact with Zeke?
My mom and Shelly.
Okay. And did you guys work out a plan so that one of the two of them could supervise you guys at all times?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did that plan seem to be working pretty well for y'all?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And let's talk about August 16th, the date of the doctor's appointment. Can you explain what happened that day?
Yes, ma'am. Heather told us that we needed to also have somebody when we are transporting Zeke. So Shelly was already there when I went to his appointment. Shelly has hard time walking. So she stayed in the car and we went into Texas Tech. We believed that was fine with as many people as in Texas Tech, and we're going to his doctor's appointment. We didn't think something like that needed to be supervised.
Okay. And that's because you were in a doctor's office. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so whenever you got out of that doctor's appointment, did you walk to the car?
Yes, ma'am. And Shelly stood outside the car and watched us walk out.
Okay. So you believed that you were supervised for that time?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay. And then let's talk about the morning of August 27th. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So explain what happened that morning.
My mom went to work about 6:45, 6:50. Shelly called Tyrone and told her that she was having car trouble. Tyrone got in the car and he drove to this side that Heather was sitting on to try to flag her down, but she ducked down in the car. So he went ahead and went to get Shelly.
Okay, so how far is Shelly's house from y'all's house?
She stays on 14th. We stay on 17th. That's 3 blocks. It took no longer than 3 or 4 minutes to pick her up and come back to the house.
Okay, so he went directly to her house, picked her up, and then returned home. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, he did.
Okay, so if you were to guess how long it was that you were unsupervised with the child, how long was that?
Probably about 5 or 6 minutes.
Okay, and after that occurred, did Miss Dinicky arrive at your house?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, did you talk with her about this period of time where Shelly was and your mom?
No, ma'am. She came in. Shelly opened the door. I was in the back getting Zeke's bottle and pamper. When we came in, she said that her boss wanted her to come over to check if we're following the service plan and if we needed anything from the department. I told her no, ma'am. She said she didn't have much time and she turned around and walked off.
Okay, so did she ask you anything about that morning?
No, ma'am, she did not.
Okay, since that morning, has she asked you why there was a period where you weren't supervised?
No, ma'am. I have not had contact or anything with Heather since Monday.
Okay, so
Monday.
If she would have asked you, would you have told her why there was a period that you weren't supervised?
Most definitely.
Okay. You've heard some testimony, and I know it's confusing because we have two cases. Even I'm a little confused. But there's been a lot of discussion about people who are approved to supervise you with Zeke, people approved to supervise you with the older two boys. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, I don't know if you have it in front of you, but there is an exhibit. It's Respondent Tenor Exhibit B, and it's a copy of some text messages. Do you see that,
Yes.
or are you familiar with it?
Yes.
It's in my case. I know that you've looked at it, so I'm just okay. And these are text messages that you sent to me, or screenshots of text that you have sent to me. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And who are those text messages with?
Erica and Heather. I believe I sent you one with Heather, but I could be mistaken, but Erica.
Okay. And is it like a group chat or individual chat, the one with Erica?
One is a group chat, but the other ones are individual chats just between me and Erica.
Okay. And the group chat has Tyrone in it. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And are these text messages like a true and accurate representation of what they're purported to show? Your Honor, at this time, I'd move to admit Respondent Tenor Exhibit B.
Any
No.
objection?
No objection. I'm not really sure what the relevance is, but I don't have an objection.
Your Honor, I'm about to discuss the people that are approved to supervise the parents.
Okay.
Okay. So,
So no objection, Mr. Jackson, Ms. Zavala?
No objection.
okay. So in these text messages,
No objection.
Okay, hang on. I need to get Ms. Zavala's on the record.
oh, sorry.
I was having trouble getting to the mute button. No objection.
Okay, all right, then petitioner's exhibit B will be admitted.
Okay. So in the text messages, you make several requests for people to be approved. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. One of those people is Brandy Parker. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you gave the name, her address and contact information?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And in a reply to you, you received from Erica that Brandy is approved. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. It says we have also approved for Brandy to supervise as well. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And there's another individual as you scroll down, Evelyn Coleman, you wanted her to be approved as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And do you know whether she was ever approved to supervise?
No, ma'am. Erica had a misunderstanding because we had told her that she was going to have eye surgery. So she had a misunderstanding. She was just another backup just in case, like I said, those 3 peoples didn't work out. So it really wasn't that big of an issue when it came to Miss Evelyn.
Okay. And there's also a text in there and you're asking that Shelley could supervise since she was already supervising Zeke. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And she said that Shelley was okay to supervise. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. She didn't mind and she was. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Who are the other people that you have requested to supervise your interactions with the kiddos?
The only people was my mom, Brandy, Evelyn at the time before we got Shelley approved and she came in. But other than that, that's the only people that we brought to the department's attention or St. Francis attention.
Okay. And then since that, we had a meeting with the department on or about August, I would say 26th. Let me check my days here. I don't want to. And it was regarding an actual PCSP, which was a placement outside of the home. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And we provided 2 names, or we provided 1 name initially and then a second name. So what was the first name? Georgetta?
Georgetta Quincy.
Okay. And then and who else did you also ask for his placement?
Jazetta Lewis and Felicia Mayberry.
Okay. And you provided that by the 28th. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. That is correct.
Okay. And these are people that you felt confident the department would approve. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Because of what we was told that Heather wanted us to place him somewhere. We didn't willingly do it. You know, we just had him. We did it because she told the conversation between us and y'all with her. She told us to place him somewhere different. So at that time, it was with Georgetta.
Okay. And on that, during that conversation with the PCSP, she indicated you that the child was not to remain with you. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. She said we either find him somewhere to go or that they were going to file for removal. So we found somewhere for him to go, which was Georgetta.
Okay. And so it's not that you voluntarily placed him there. It's that you really believe that that's what you needed to do.
Yes, ma'am, because we didn't want him removed. Like I said, I just had him.
Okay. And, you know, we've named quite a lot of names here that we've asked to supervise. Whenever you ask Erica if someone can supervise and she says yes, or you ask Miss Denicky if someone can supervise and she says yes, you know, what does that mean to you?
That means yes. I've never had a problem with Erica saying yes about anything supervised. Like I said, it was a misunderstanding with Evelyn. But like I said, I haven't had any contact with Heather. The time that I did try to message her, she never messaged me back. So I just kept it with Shelley and my mom. We haven't tried anything else on side of Georgetta.
Okay. You know, you've heard the testimony today. Is there anything else that you would like the judge or the court to be made aware of that's staying on track with what we're talking about today?
That we did everything necessary to abide by the plan. the thing that happened on the 27th was nobody's fault. She had car trouble. It's not that we wanted to go unattended or we was doing something we wasn't supposed to. She had car trouble. Tyrone went to go get her. That was that. It wasn't that we just was being unsupervised or doing our own thing. This is about our child, you know. So that's it.
Thank you. I'll pass the witness.
Right, Mr. Ruff.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Tinner, just a couple of questions. This doctor's appointment, you said you assumed, is it fair to say that you assumed it was okay for Shelley to drive you there, but not come into the doctor's appointment based on your prior conversations with Ms. Denicky? Do I have that right?
Yes.
Okay. So you didn't actually tell Ms. Denicky that you were taking him to a doctor's appointment that particular day. It's just you thought that that was okay. Is that right?
Right.
Okay. And then you said that Tyrone waved at Heather. I assume he told you that. Is that right?
No, I was standing outside. I contacted my attorney informing her that as well.
Okay. So is there some reason why you didn't stop or you didn't go over the car if you saw her in the car to let her know?
Because I had my child. Am I supposed to walk across the street with my child? I figured she was, you know, pull up and ask us what's going on.
Okay.
You know, she's watching, so.
Okay. But you have her phone number, right? You have her call, you have her text with her.
I sure do. I didn't text her because she never responds to none of my texts. And like I said, Tyrone was trying to wave her down. She ducked in the car, so I didn't want her to say we was harassing her or whatever the case may be. So I just kept it like that and did what I felt was right.
So when did you become aware that she was parked outside?
At 7:04, I seen her parked outside because we had the door open. I seen her at the end corner on 18th at the stop sign.
Okay. So why not just give her a quick text? Hey, Tyrone's got to get Shelley. She's got car trouble.
Because Tyrone had already tried to pull up next to her and flag her down, and she dug down. She must not wanted any contact with us. And every other time prior to me texting her, she never responded to text. So I left it alone.
Okay. But you were aware you were not supposed to be, that you had agreed to be supervised with the baby under the safety plan.
Most definitely. Even if Heather would have pulled up, it would have been 15, 30 seconds unsupervised, even if she would have pulled up. So regardless, it's no way to win in that area.
Okay,
we still would have been supervised.
So you don't see violating the safety plan so much of an issue as the amount of time in which the safety plan was violated, it sounds like.
No, that's not what I said.
Well, I'm just going by what you're telling me. So.
Yes, sir, but that's not what I said. I don't feel that way.
Okay.
She had car trouble. It's not that we intentionally violated the plan. Wrong is wrong. I understand that, but it wasn't nothing intentional. We couldn't stop Shelley's car from breaking down.
Okay, so you don't
go get her.
So do you believe that you violated the safety plan by not notifying the department?
No, I believe that the safety plan was violated for being unattended, but she never said once that if something ever happens to where you're unattended to pick up the phone and call me this and that. She made it clear that we had to be supervised. So I mean, what could have been done? We still would have been unsupervised.
Well, you understood that one of the potential consequences of violating the plan could be removal, right?
Most definitely, and it wasn't intentional. She had car trouble. It's
Okay,
not that we did something for any other reason.
But I didn't mention the word intentional. I'm just saying if you violate the safety plan, one of the potential consequences is your child is removed.
Most definitely.
So I guess my question is, if you know, why wouldn't you reach out if you were concerned that the child could be removed if there was a violation of the safety plan? Why not just reach out so you could at least put the marker down and say, hey, we got this situation. Let us know what you want to do.
Objection, Your Honor. Ask and answer.
Sustained.
Okay. One last question. Isn't it true that you were not told to place Zeke anywhere? That you basically were just advised to look and to find an alternate caregiver?
No, that's not true.
Okay.
We were told if we didn't place Zeke somewhere else that she was going to file for removal.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Pass the witness.
Okay. Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Judge. Well, I just want to go back to this August the 16th hospital visit. You were told, I think, by Ms. Denicky that if you're going to transport this child, that you have to have somebody there to supervise the transport.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so what did you take that to mean? Did you think that it's okay that she just be in the car and then y'all can bring Zeke into the doctor's office?
Yes, sir. I'm thinking because it's 1,000,001 people in the doctor's office. We're going to see his doctor. We're sitting in a waiting room with glass windows where, you know, it's 1,000,001 eyes on us.
Okay.
You know, I didn't think nothing of it.
Okay. And so would it be a fair statement that as far as you and Tyrone are concerned, have y'all just done everything that you can within your power to comply with this safety plan?
Yes, sir.
And wouldn't you agree that there are things that happen in life to all of us that are out of our control?
Yes, sir.
And did that happen to you all on August the 27th?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll pass the witness.
All right, Ms. Bala.
Okay. Hi, Miss Tenner. So when was it that you believed that it was okay for someone else to supervise the visits with the older boys?
I had sent out a text to Erica because I was confused with the whole difference between St. Francis and CPS. I mean, in all honesty, I thought that it was the same thing. So once my mama notified me that they had started up her Saturdays back, I knew that we had to find someone else to supervise the visits. So I figured since Shelly was already approved by CPS, it would be okay.
Okay. So you and I have met before. I went out and watched the visits with your other sons, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And we've been through a lot of hearings.
Yes, ma'am.
And at that last hearing we had with your other sons, the order was that you could have these Saturday visits with your mother supervising, right?
Yeah.
So, and I approved of that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So do you understand why it would terrify me to read the statements that Ms. Dinicky had in the affidavit that your mom said she had never supervised a Saturday visit ever?
Yes, ma'am. I could see why that terrifies you. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And okay, I pass the witness.
All right, Ms. Kincaid.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, does anybody else have any further questions for Ms. Tenner?
No, Your Honor. No questions.
No, ma'am.
All right, Ms. Kincaid, any further witnesses?
No further witnesses. I'd rest.
Okay, Mr. Jackson.
Your Honor, I would call Tyrone Lewis.
Okay, Mr. Lewis, if you'll raise your right
Proceed,
hand,
Your
please,
Honor.
sir. You may.
Hey, sir, if you would state your full name for the record, please.
Tyrone Lewis.
And Tyrone, just for the record, you have been in this room and heard all the testimony up to this point. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And so I'm just going to touch on some things that we've kind of already gone over. I want to start with August the 27th.
Yes, sir.
August the 27th, did you receive a call from Shelly Adams?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And was that the call that she made that say, hey, my car won't start?
Yes, sir. She told me she was having problems with her car. That starting and stuff.
Okay.
Yes.
And when that call was made to you all, was Miss Tenner still in the house or had she already left to go to work?
No, Miss Tenner, it was about 6:45. Miss Tenner was walking out the door, but I knew
Okay.
something was already.
Ms. Galvin, let me interrupt because I'm really having a hard time hearing him. Nori, can you hear him okay?
Oh, I need to turn this.
Yeah, if I'll ask him to speak into the camera, I think you'll hear it better.
Yeah, that'll help. So I'm sorry if you could start your last answer over.
Yeah, I was just asking if Miss Tenner, if she were still in the house when you figured out that Miss Adams had car trouble.
No, sir. Miss Tenner was going out the door when Shelly called me, and I already knew something was wrong because Shelly wasn't there. We always do, it's like shift change. When Marilyn going to work, Shelly coming in the door. So I already knew something was wrong when she called me.
Okay, and so I mean that the exchange or the shift off in the keepers of the gate.
Right.
I mean there's never been a hiccup before, right?
No, we like I say, man, we this one day, you know, it's when the ball got dropped, you know, her car was tripping. So
Okay. And so after you learned that from Shelley, what actions did you take?
I brushed my teeth and stuff, and I went to go pick her up.
Okay,
And-
Joel, we're having a hard time
Oh.
again.
I went to go pick her up.
Okay, and do you know what time it was that you went to pick her up?
I walked out the door at 7:04
Okay, now that's a pretty precise time. How do you remember that time?
because I looked at my phone.
On the way out the door?
Yes, sir. I looked at my phone. It was 7:04.
Okay, and so when you left the house to go get Shelley, how far away does Shelley live from you?
3 blocks.
Okay, and was she ready when you got to her house?
Shelley?
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Okay, and so did she come straight out to your car?
Yes, sir.
Okay, did you go directly back to your home?
Yes, sir.
How long did it take you from the time that you left your house approximately until the time that you returned with Shelley Adams?
Maybe 5 minutes.
Okay. And then did you go in the house with her?
Yes, sir. I walked in the house and I was in the house a few minutes and then I went to get us all coffee.
Okay, and then you left again?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, on your way to go pick up Shelley, did you encounter Heather Denicky?
Yes, sir.
Okay, where did you encounter her at?
At the intersection.
Okay. Was she in the intersection or parked on the side of the street?
She was parked on the side of the street facing east.
Okay. And so when you got up to that intersection where she was at, did you have a stop sign?
Yes, sir. I stopped at the stop sign.
Okay.
I sat there about 3 minutes.
Okay. Why did you set the stop sign 3 minutes?
Because I was trying to get her attention so I could tell her what was happening. But she was literally ducked down in her car, and I'm sitting there like, I'm, waiting on her to raise up so I could tell her, Heather, Shelley's car broke down. I'm about to go get her, But the whole time she just kept her head down. She's on a stakeout, so she kept her head down.
Okay. So after about 2 or 3 minutes, and you made the decision just to go on and pick up Shelley?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to approach her because I didn't want to seem threatening or frighten her or nothing. So I just stayed in my car and I went to get Shelley.
Okay. And did you ever have a conversation with Heather Denicky about that morning that you left to go get Shelley?
We haven't seen Heather since last Monday.
Okay. All right. So
or talk to her. We haven't been able to talk to her since last Monday. We saw her, but we haven't been able to talk to her.
Okay. Now, as far as as far as August the 27th, that pretty much accounts for everything. Right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Going back to August, I believe it was the 16th when Shelley had rode with you all to a doctor's appointment with Zeke.
Yes, sir.
You heard Mahala's testimony about why y'all took Shelley. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If I were to ask you the same questions that I asked Mahala, would your answers be any different?
No, sir.
Did you think that you were complying by transporting Shelley with the child?
Absolutely, because she told us we couldn't transport Zeke without supervision.
Okay.
So we had Shelley with us. We parked right up in the front, took Zeke and her to the doctor. I mean, if she meant that Shelley needed to be in there with me and Zeke and Mahala in the doctor's office, if that's what she meant, I didn't get that out of what she said. She said transport.
Okay.
So
you took it at her word?
Yes, I took it at her word. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now I want to switch gears on you again. There was some testimony about Miss Tenner and the bedroom that she stays in.
Yes.
And Miss Denicky had testified that she went in there one day. I don't remember which day it was, but there was not a bed in that room. Can you explain that to the judge, please?
Yes, sir. Me and Miss Denicky had a conversation. I told her we came up with a good idea that we would get a set up that the adjoining room of our bedroom with Zeke's crib and a bed for Maryland. And this was on maybe a Tuesday or Wednesday. Coming back from her for Friday, seeing the boys, the motor went out on the truck. That's how we ended up with the white car. I wasn't able to get to bed. So when she came that Monday, we was at the food stamp office. The room wasn't set up. But when she came the next time, we had the bed in there. But like I said, we got to go to Hereford to see the kids every Monday and Friday, and we can't walk. So I didn't have the money to get the bed that particular day. It's in the time frame that I told her I would try to have it done.
Okay.
But from the bed to transporting the baby we've tried to do everything that we could to satisfy what she asked us and comply with the safety plan.
Okay, and so Marilyn Tenner, there was testimony here. We're trying to get some dates nailed down about how long she's lived with you all. Do you have a date in your mind, how long she's lived?
Yeah, she's been there it's been about 3 going on 4 months.
Okay, do you know about when she moved in?
I think like say June, something like that. June.
June, okay.
Yeah, it was around June.
Okay, and then finally, with respect to you all had transported Zeke over to Georgetta's house, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And did Georgetta come over to your house for you all to transport him?
You mean as far as from the time from when she came and got Zeke?
How did Zeke get to Georgetta's?
Oh, she come pick him up.
Okay, from your house?
Yes.
Okay, and why did that take place? Why were y'all placing this child with Georgetta?
Because you called me and told me that Heather called you and said if we didn't find somewhere for Zeke to go, that she was going to file for Zeke to be removed. And you said that you told me that was for me to try to find somebody because we was trying to keep Zeke out of foster care.
Okay.
You know.
And they were moving rather fast that day, correct?
She said we had to do it that day. So that's why for the past week, Zeke been with Georgetta.
Okay. All right. And she's with Georgetta here in my office today, correct?
Yeah. Zeke is here with Georgetta right now.
Okay. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Groff.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Mr. Lewis, you testified that you looked at your phone and that's how you knew it was 7:04 when you left the house to go pick up Shelly. Is that right? On the 27th of August?
Absolutely.
Okay. And so if Ms. Danicky had you timed at 7:16, how would you account for that?
Well, she lied. I know for a fact because I told my lawyer the same thing, that I walked out the door at 7:04. But mind you, I hadn't even got the paperwork until just now. But she put that in the paperwork that it was 7:04. I couldn't have made that up, man. That I walked out at that time. It's too precise.
Okay.
You know. But she can check her calculations. But I walked out at 7:04 in the morning.
Okay.
You know.
When did you stop for coffee?
After I dropped Miss Shelley off, I went and got us all coffee.
Oh, okay. So that was not along the way. That was after you dropped her off at your house.
Yeah, I came right back. I went and got Miss Shelley from her house 3 blocks away. She walked outside, got in my car. I came straight back to the house.
Okay. And you're in the North Heights neighborhood, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I've never been where you live. When you were mentioning the address, I looked it up on Google Maps and it looks like a pretty quiet neighborhood, not a lot of high traffic on the streets and so forth. Is that fair to say?
No, it's a whole bunch of traffic on the streets. It's in between 2 schools.
Okay.
Yes.
And you took 18th to go over to Miss Shelley's house, is that right?
No, Miss Shelley lived on 14th Street. I took 18th Street to go try to tell Miss Danicky what was going on, but she was ducked down in the car on a stakeout.
Okay. So you knew that at that point in time, grandmother's not in the home and you needed to go get Shelly because she couldn't get over there because you didn't want to be in violation of the safety plan. Is that right?
Right.
Okay. But your testimony is I heard Mom say you waved at Heather, but I hear you testifying that you stopped for 3 minutes to try and get.
Stopped at that corner. Yes, sir.
All right. So did you beat the horn?
No, sir.
Okay.
Why? She saw me. She saw me. Why beat the horn?
Okay.
She saw me like I saw her.
But in your mind, does she have any reason to know you're in violation at that point?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. So I guess you said you didn't want to get out of the car because you didn't want to appear threatening to her. Is that your testimony?
Absolutely.
Okay. And so you just tried to wave at her for 3 minutes, and after 3 minutes of her not responding, you just drove off.
Yes, sir. I drove. I drove west. I drove west, and I went and got on Fannin Street and went straight to Miss Shelley's house.
Okay. Now, the safety plan that you agreed to called for eyes-on supervision in the home, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
24 hours.
Okay. 24-hour. And so why would you assume it would be any different going to a doctor's office?
Because that I mean, run that by me again. What you saying?
I'm trying to understand why you would assume that would change because you were going to a doctor's office.
Oh, because I mean, Miss Shelley is Miss Shelley, but we're going to the doctor. So the doc, you think the doctor's Miss Shelley's supervision override the doctor's? That didn't make sense to me. We taking the baby to the doctor. Why would Miss Shelley need to supervise the doctor?
Okay. Well, that's kind of what I'm getting at. You made an assumption, but yet you agreed to 24/7 supervision. So I'm just trying to help. I'm trying to understand your mindset is all.
I agreed to the 24-hour supervision. Like I say, I'm thinking at my home. I'm not thinking that I needed Miss Shelley to go and supervise the doctor's appointment.
Okay.
We wanted to see a doctor, the baby's doctor. So, what she said, what I got out of what Miss Denicky said was transport. So that meant that even if we was in the car, we couldn't be alone with Z. We had to have supervision. She said transport.
But
so that's what that meant to me, sir.
You assumed that there was an exception for the doctor's office. I hear that. I understand.
I mean, the plan was already almost impossible. The plan was to fail. The plan was for us to win.
Judge, I missed that last part he said.
I did too. So what was the last statement you made, sir?
I said that the way the plan was set up was for us to not be able to complete the plan.
I think I heard him say the plan was to fail. Is that right, sir?
That's the way the plan is. I mean, you already on 24-hour curve. We had 6 different people willing to do that, but still in a 5-minute window, you saying we failed a safety plan because the lady had car trouble.
Okay. So I hear you.
If she would have wanted to, if she wanted to help, or she was about family, help us with Zeke, all she had to do was come over and communicate with us or try to communicate with me when I pulled up beside her car. That's all she had to do. We wouldn't be here today.
Well, that's kind of my point. How did she know you had a problem?
How did she know that we have a problem?
In other words, where's your responsibility in this to notify the social worker, I guess is my question for you, sir.
Okay, so
I think he's answered that question. I think he said he pulled up next to her. He waited several minutes to try to get her attention and then went on about to go get the other supervising party.
Okay. So it sounds like, based on your impression that this was designed for you to fail, that you feel like this was kind of a nuisance. Is that fair to say?
No, sir. I feel that it's not fair that that we have to go through this for something that was like I say, a 5-minute window where the help that we got, we doing the best that we can. The 5-minute window that we was unsupervised, that we at the point where our child is about to be removed from our home. I don't think that's fair. That's why I feel.
Okay.
I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair at all. It'll be a different story if it was 5 or 6 different instances where we being monitored, but we failing to do what the department asked us to do. You talking about one day in one instance and maybe 5 minutes. And it wasn't because anybody did anything intentionally, but the lady that come, her car didn't start, man. She's 70 years old. Her car didn't start. But you're supposed to help me, though.
I understand that. Not arguing that
everything's
point.
supposed to be on my beat. Everything is supposed to be on our part. We doing everything we can. You see the effort there. You watch me get in my car and go pick this woman up.
All right, Mr. Lewis, just let him ask another question.
I have no further questions, Your Honor. Pass the witness.
Okay. All right. Ms. Kincaid, do you have any questions?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Zavala?
No questions, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, then, Mr. Jackson, any further witnesses today?
Your Honor, just for your information, I have Georgetta Quincy and Shelley Adams available for testimony if the court wants to hear from them. If the court doesn't think that they need any further testimony, then I'll end there.
Let me just, I've got some questions I want to just be crystal clear about some things. So at this point and moment in time, we have 4 individuals that are approved to supervise Zeke. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, I'm hearing a yes, and Ms.
No.
Deneke's shaking her head no. I mean, I guess I can see why these folks may be confused.
No, we have Shelley and Marilyn are the only people approved to supervise with Zeke at this time. It may be different for St. Francis and the older kids, but for Zeke, the only approved are Marilyn and Shelley.
Okay. So who is approved? All right, I understand. I think those in the other case, Marilyn is approved, and who else?
And are you asking for St. Francis?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
For us, it is Marilyn, Brandy, and Shelley. And I am pending to do a 4th one for Evelyn. We talked about this on Saturday with the parents. So we will have a 4th one. We do have another plan implemented if you do want to hear that. But that's who we have approved right now is 3 with the 4th one pending.
Okay. So can the department, I mean, let's say that can the department, if they need to look at those other individuals independently, I mean, if St. Francis is approved, I don't know whether the department will just say, okay, Brandy's approved, but can we look at Brandy and can we look at Evelyn? Am I saying that right, Ms. Cantrell? Okay, Evelyn, to be approved backup caregivers, for Zeke. I mean, we're talking about the same family unit. All I've read, because I really haven't heard anybody talk much about it today, all I read in the affidavit was every time that the department laid eyes on the baby, on Zeke, baby looked healthy, was happy, free of marks and bruises, dressed appropriately, baby was good.
But that's my understanding that Ms. Deneke briefly testified to that, Your Honor.
So, folks, I mean, my concern is just like everybody else's concern. It all starts with the other case, but, I feel like we can, with 4 people, we should be able to adequately make sure there's supervision in the home and supervision of Zeke at all times and not have to remove the child from the home. It's the last thing I want to do, but I also need some assurances he's going to be safe because of everybody knows why. I mean, we don't have to flog a dead horse. We all know why. So I would like for the department to look at these other 2 individuals. Let's see if we can't get those approved. I hope parents will agree to stay under the safety plan on Zeke. I will just tell you, I mean, you need to, because if you don't, I mean, they're going to turn right around and present this thing to me again. Your attorneys can tell you how that's going to work. So, better to get along and try to figure out operating under the safety plan, so that we don't have to remove Zeke. So, I mean, I don't think that the department is able to meet their burden for the legal removal of this child. Not saying that there aren't concerns, just like there are with the other kids. So, all I can do is Ms. Tanner and Mr. Lewis, I gotta just tell you, I mean, you're on everybody's radar. I think you guys know that. I really do.
Man.
Just know if we have a problem with this supervision, just go over and above and out of the way to make sure that someone with the department, whoever you're supposed to be responding to, knows that there's a problem. And what do they want you to do?
Yes, ma'am.
If you don't get a response from them timely, you do the best you can do to get somebody else in place as fast as you can.
We'll call Erica.
And I think that you all probably did that on the morning where Shelley's car would not start. It does appear to me that you all did take pretty quick action. So I just, things happen, life happens. I can also understand probably you thinking it wasn't necessary for someone to go into the doctor's office with you because obviously you had a lot of, there's people there watching what's going on. So, but let's just get it clear, supervision is supervision.
Yes,
So,
Your Honor, if I may interject for one moment, Ms. Finch may be able to answer the question so we can clarify it, I hope, on the record right now about the St. Francis approved supervisors and whether the department can accept them.
Are you ready for me, Judge?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. I don't know what exactly the standards are for St. Francis to approve caregivers, but we are willing to look into that and vet them ourselves and have a staffing with St. Francis to make sure that we are on the same page as far as what approval looks like.
Can that be done this week? Sorry, Judge.
I mean, Ms. Finch, Ms. Cantrell already obviously has a whole lot of information.
Yeah.
So the faster we can do this, the more options we have for this family and for them to be able to stay together and leave the baby in the home. So, I mean, anything that we can do to shortcut and expedite that would obviously, be very, very helpful. So Ms. Cantrell's indicating they run the same checks that DFPS does, but I'll let you all, knock heads together and make sure you think you've covered your bases. But
okay.
If we can get an answer on that issue pretty quickly, that would be really great. I've stepped all over Ms. Zavala's toes. I apologize, Ms. Zavala. I just don't think the legal burden has been met. I am interested in, if you have any other recommendations regarding the supervision or anything like that.
No, Your Honor, I was not as concerned with the car incident or the doctor incident. I think I made it clear in my questions what did really concern me and felt like a huge, I think it turned out to be miscommunication and confusion. I could see now with those texts and the confusion about DFPS's role and CPS's role, I can see the confusion about who could supervise. What terrified me was if I had been lied to for 6 weeks as to who was supervising this Saturday visit. So I believe that's been answered and I feel better about that. I was initially very worried about that situation. But I do agree about the other. I can see where that confusion came as to who can supervise those. So that was essentially where I was going as well.
So, Ms. Tanner, Mr. Lewis, with respect to Zeke, I'm no longer involved in your life about this because I'm not doing the legal removal. I am still involved, of course, with the other kids. And
Yes,
you've been doing this long enough to know if we have a problem with one, I'm going to hear about it in the other, and
Yes,
so technically I'm not involved in Zeke's situation anymore, but I hope we can get some of these hiccups worked out and really, I think on the whole, what has been some legitimate misunderstandings. I don't think anybody's done something intentional. I don't believe that anybody has intentionally violated this safety plan. So we're going to give this another go and see if we can't make this work. And I think if we have some more people that we can pick up the phone and call real fast, then so much the better.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Your Honor, if I may, I'd like to clarify one thing. Once again, Zeke is here with us in the office with Georgetta today. Miss Adams is also here. So are we good to go? Have Zeke go back to the house with Miss Adams supervising again until Miss Tanner gets off work?
So just let me just clarify again. It was Ms. Danicky, Ms. Adams has been approved as a supervisor for Zeke already.
Yes, she has.
Yep. Okay. Yes. The answer to that then is yes.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay. So
I think Ms. Kincaid has a question for you.
Judge, I just wanted to submit a couple of other names since I was under the impression that Georgetta and Felicia were getting their background checks done to be more support for the family. I wasn't aware that had ceased. And obviously on Friday afternoon, all of us are kind of out. So I would hope that we could resume that so that they have more support and some backup caregivers in addition to who they've already selected.
if you want to submit those names to me, Savannah, or the parents text me, and hearing that testimony today, I was not aware of Felicia or the Georgiana, and that made like the confusion. So I can run those for our supervision on Saturday, and then we can discuss with Heather and Katrisa, however we want to do that. I will let the court know, we do have them planned on Saturdays. Parents are going to get me a schedule on Saturday, today. They said it might be a little later since this court hearing. They're going to tell me who's supervising on Saturdays, excuse me. They're going to give me a schedule. If anything changes, they have to notify me by 3 p.m. on Friday. So that's what we have in place for ours to ensure supervision.
And Your Honor, I had submitted those names to Ms. Dinicky, and it could, and that was to try to do the PCSP or find something else. So whoever we need to send it to, I'll send it to everybody,
I would love for St. Francis and the department to take a look at those additional individuals. When you're talking about 24-hour day, 7 days a week, 365-day a year supervision, the more people we have that are willing to help with that, obviously the better, because I don't know how much longer it's going to go on. I know we have another hearing coming up with other kids, and but my point is that this is, it's a lot to ask of people. And particularly in Miss Tenor, Marilyn Tenor, he's doing probably is doing the bulk of that. And it's a lot to ask. So I think if we've got some other people that we can approve and have to, great. And then, I don't know what's going to happen in the other case. I don't have that crystal ball, and I haven't heard everything that everybody wants to argue to me about that. But no matter what happens, the more support that the family has, we all know, the more likely they are to succeed. So, if we've got family and/or close friends or people that are willing to give of their time in this manner, gosh, let's just reach out and grab it with both hands. So let's take a look at the rest of them, and then, and I hope that will help with the situation with Zeke moving forward, and then also with the boys ultimately.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you,
Judge.
Okay. I really appreciate everybody gathering on such short notice. This was very unusual. I know we don't typically do this, and it's particularly when it's statutorily, it's just this is a very unusual thing. But I was not comfortable, since parents already were being represented by attorneys. I felt like this was the way we needed to handle this. So anyway, I appreciate everybody doing this on such short notice, and I hope you all have a good rest of your evening. If there's anything else you need from me, let me know. And of course, I'll see all of you back when we get together for the older children's case.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Judge.
Okay.
And
Appreciate
for what it's worth, sorry to drop this on you late Friday afternoon on a 3-day weekend.
That's, if you're directing that to me, that's my job. That's what I'm here for. So, okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody, so much. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.